Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Big News Wednesdays with me, Iadarola, and Jayar Jackson. Jayar, present yourself.
Hey, what's up? What's going on, guys? I have one very important big news announcement to start this particular Big News Wednesday. I have figured out my good friend, the wacky waving inflatable arm tube man. He is working in full capacity with me. We are ready for a good Wednesday. That last time was a bit of a fail. I just want to let you guys know everyone was worried about my man, Malcolm, right here. I guess I'll name him Malcolm.
Good moves.
Oh yeah, he's good. He's good to go.
Yeah, I think we need a wacky inflatable flailing arm emoji. Actually,
he's my mascot.
Big inflatable Wednesdays. Anyway, you're ridiculous. Well, look, glad to have you. On the good news front, no. Sorry, I tried.
Searching, buffer.
Yeah, no, here, I'll throw a bit of quick good news. So not only, a couple days ago, I gave you that update on the story of the guy who had brought his gun out at some teenage protesters, tried to say it was stand your ground, and then the judge apparently denied the stand your ground defense. That's good news. Other good news, that story that was going around last week of the free meals being canceled at a school because it makes kids feel entitled to nutrition or whatever. They have backtracked apparently as a result of the consequences. So good news. There's your balance. 30 seconds of good news, 90 minutes of well, we got that coming for you. But anyway, either way, Jayar, glad to have you here.
No, I enjoy that because I wanted to do that story about that school district in Waukesha. I'm glad they figured it out. But I mean, that's what pressure does. Good.
Yeah. In the bad news front, we've got a few different types. We're gonna be spending a little bit of time in Texas, something I don't recommend for anyone. But also, we've got this story coming up a little bit later on about a principal being suspended. The reason this principal was suspended is madness. And so we're gonna be talking about that, and we've got weathermen being disrupted. We've got, hey, Lauren Windsor is gonna show up on this episode. We got a whole bunch of fact checking to do when it comes to Afghanistan, because basically everything's lies and it's bad for you. So buckle up, hold on to your butts. We got a lot of news coming for you. But as we go through that, if you want to send us comments, tweets, super chat, stuff like that, we'll respond. We always appreciate hearing your thoughts, answering your questions, stuff like that. And if you wouldn't mind hitting the like button and sharing the stream, that would be great. You know what? I'm gonna get this party started by sharing the Damage Report's tweet about the stream as well in just a second. But with that said, and that shared, Jayar, are you ready to talk about some news?
Let the party commence.
Yeah, unfortunately, very much not a party. It's about as much of a party as every party I've ever thrown. I mean, people are here, but is it a party really? Is that the vibe? Anyway, with that, okay, team, let's do this. As of today, at least for today, and I'm really hoping things will change. Roe v. Wade has effectively, hey JR, we're gonna need you to, got an issue there with the audio. Bad timing on that. Okay, we're gonna restart that. As of today, thanks to a combination of horrible governance in Texas and the Supreme Court's lack of action leading up to midnight of last night, Roe v. Wade effectively is done in America. That may change, there is still time, and certainly there are ways that not only the Supreme Court, but also the Democrats, who I will remind you are in charge of this country, could do something about this. But as of right now, effectively reproductive rights don't exist if you happen to live in one of the many red states who are gonna pass new 6-week abortion bans, because the Supreme Court declined to stop Texas's 6-week abortion ban from going into effect. 6 weeks, I will just point out for those who don't already know this, is not enough time to know. Maybe you know that you're pregnant at that point, but many will not, let alone all of the resources required, particularly in states like Texas, where it was already incredibly difficult to exercise your reproductive rights. Reproductive rights, by the way, that many of the people watching this have had their entire lives from before they were born. This is the progress that we're getting in America, is that being knocked out. Well, let's talk briefly about this bill. SB 8 not only stops abortion at 6 weeks, It also stipulates that any US citizen can sue a Texas abortion provider or sue a person suspected of aiding or abetting abortion services. The plaintiffs don't even have to be residents of Texas to sue Texans suspected of helping people make these private reproductive choices. And should the lawsuit prevail, the person who brought the suit will receive $10,000 plus attorney fees. So when people talk about this being a bounty, it's very specifically a bounty. It's not, any damages that were done to you, you'll get paid, or just your legal fees. It's literally, here's a cash prize if you sue an abortion provider or an Uber driver who took a woman to an abortion provider, or I guess someone that she confided in that told her, yes, you probably should get an abortion. You can get $10,000 because this is America in 2021. So look, we're gonna get into a lot of this, Jayar. What are your thoughts?
Well, not even like with the incentivizing this being that way. It's more like it promotes it. This is like a different scale on this. So maybe, we had the whole Good Samaritan thought, right? If you see a crime happening, you jump in or you call the cops, you make sure things get ended. They're trying to transition this to be like, this is one of those, it's a crime in every aspect of it. And not only are you a good Samaritan if you report the crime, but you should be incentivized to go and start snooping and finding people, because what motivation do people have to get extra 10K in their pockets, especially in times like this when people are short on money and we have a lot of issues that stem from the pandemic, the economy's going down, the richest people in the country hoard most of the money. So we set up this situation where there's this need for things like this to be implemented from people's mindset of their religious point of view. Then other people who don't care about that part just be like, well, I just need some money. I'll take part in it. Like we have, it's this upside down way of approaching things. Let's incentivize people for being snitches on someone else on something that should be illegal. By the way, it is still legal in the country based off of the Supreme Court decision. But now in states, we can start implementing rules to undercut that and make people enforce it in this weird way.
Yeah, well, still technically legal, kind of, for a very limited period of time, because assuming you even know that you're pregnant, assuming you can even get an appointment to find out for sure. Yeah, and making it about cash. That's really just the chef's kiss on this whole thing. This is really about your values, isn't it? That you're paying people $10,000 for it. And by the way, there's a lot of context that needs to be added, and this is not the only time we're gonna be talking about this, but let's also bear in mind that Texas deciding that women who've been born and lived their entire lives in a country where in theory they have these rights will now no longer be able to exercise control over their own bodies in a state that is at the head of a year-long conversation about how the government shouldn't be telling me I can't infect people with a virus. That's medical, it's private. So your medical rights are so significant in terms of masking and vaccination that will allow you to kill other people. If you want to get other people sick recklessly, if you want to potentially kill them, who are we to say that that's wrong? Oh wait, it's a fetus? No, we can definitely say you are going to have that child and someone else is gonna give it COVID. That's what's going to happen in Texas. Anyway, look, there's a lot that we gotta get to. I wanna get into some of the immediate reactions to this. Let's jump to this video.
This actually lets private citizens who have zero connection to the person getting an abortion take legal action. How does this even work? Why?
That's right. It means someone with no connection at all could be able to get $10,000, just as we just pointed out. It even means you could sue an Uber driver who drives someone to an abortion clinic. These are laws stricter than what we have in place for someone who would drive someone who's about to commit an act of terrorism to the place where they actually commit this act. So it's a very strict law. Right now, the Supreme Court could act on a piece of this if they take up what would be an emergency application from several of those Texas abortion providers, but they did not act overnight, so it does go into effect.
Yeah, so they could decide to do something, they chose not to. Let's just bear that in mind, Jayar. It's not like they woke up this morning like, I knew there was something we were supposed to rule on. And maybe they will. But there are 7 conservatives effectively on the Supreme Court.
Yeah, it's possible that they're trying to go ahead. Yeah, it's possible they could be going and trying to test the waters and see what the reaction could be. I don't think that's something the Supreme Court generally does. They seem pretty disconnected from the rest of society and opinions and thoughts and everything that come across the board when it comes to stories about political events and agendas and decisions and executive orders and legislation. It seems like they're separate from that most times. But I wonder if in this case, it's a testing of the waters to wait and see if this is really something that they want to do, or if they want to take it up and then become part of the story. Because eventually you're gonna have to. Is what Donald Trump was talking about the whole time and trying to implement as many conservative justices as possible so we can go ahead and start changing things. They were setting this up when Trump was like in his second year of office. Let's keep it real. States like this were like, oh, we can't wait. We can't wait. We have legislation we're gonna tee up to make sure it's extraordinarily limiting, to make sure we have a pushback on this and see what happens. Now we're here.
Yeah. So we're here. People knew this was coming. Obviously, when Trump gets 3 Supreme Court nominees in 4 years, like how many times? Like we've had guests on that were terrified of this in the run up, and now it's here. Like you get 50 years of reproductive rights, and and again, I'll just point out, how stupid are we to believe that? Well, there's struggle, but things are getting better. Yeah, for some people, but in other ways, we're more backwards than we were a half a century ago. And by the way, Jayar, I don't know if you, and I'll say this to the audience too, I don't know if you've been spending much time on Twitter this morning. First of all, don't. But if you do, you might have seen that there's a lot of finger pointing going on, a lot of trying to assess blame. So there's a bunch of people that are like, if you in 2016 didn't prioritize, getting someone who's going to appoint liberals to the Supreme Court, it's your fault. Then those people point back and say, hey, Biden could do something. He could expand the court. He could whatever. And they're yelling back and forth about who is to blame. Here's the thing: when it comes to American government, this isn't Highlander. We're not trying to find the one person who's responsible. Lots of people are responsible. Lots of people are to blame. Biden totally could do stuff right now. The Democrats could do stuff. First of all, they could give a damn about state government. They could try to make it so that Texas, which does not necessarily have to have a Republican government, might flip at some point. And then we wouldn't get things like the election bill and like this. They could do that in many different states. Biden could expand the court. They could get rid of the filibuster. So this is on Biden, this is on Manchin, this is on Sinema, this is on a lot of people. And it's also on the people who haven't given a damn about the Supreme Court for like a decade now. 100%. When you tell people it doesn't matter, some people are gonna believe that. And here's the thing, you saying it doesn't matter doesn't make it not matter to the people whose rights are gonna be stripped away. And so if you're mad, good, you should be mad, and you should probably be mad at a lot more people than you are right now, because you have been failed by so many people in politics, in punditry, in the media, all of them. You should be pissed off. I really hope that today people are.
Well, we'll see, but then that's the thing. It's a hard thing is for them to find the culprit. That's the real problem. Because also part of the 2016 people were talking about when Trump came in office and how many Democrats, progressives were disillusioned by the system after what happened with Bernie Sanders and in the primaries and Hillary Clinton and all these. There's so many factors, as you said. So people do get turned off from politics sometimes, because then, as we're seeing right now, let's go back to present. Okay, fine, forget 2016. It's 2021, and Joe Biden had all these promises that he made with progressives and things that he said he's gonna push forward that would have more equal measures throughout the country for things like this. As you don't do these things, we're talking like student loan debt, things like that. As you don't do these things, those are completely separate, am I right? Those are different issues. But it turns off people from even trusting or thinking you're ever gonna do anything for them, because you say it over and over and over again and do nothing, and then go whatever. I guess Kirsten Sinema and Joe Manchin are the leaders of the party now. And you let that be your face, people that are turned off by you and don't believe anything you're ever gonna say, and we get to these types of decisions.
Yeah, look, the fact that the Supreme Court is allowing the 6-week abortion ban is not just floating in the ether crazy, it is obviously directly contravening past Supreme Court precedent. They have not allowed things less draconic than this to stand. But now, we got the conservatives, so screw it. We don't care what the Supreme Court has said before. We're gonna do whatever we want. They're gonna do whatever they want. They're gonna do it in the issues we're gonna talk about soon about voting. You think you can vote? We'll see. We'll see if you can vote. We're gonna do whatever we can do. That's what we're gonna do. And then what are the Democrats doing? Biden he's got to study. to look into if he can cancel a little bit of student loan debt. Manchin and Sinema are like, well, there's this tradition of the filibuster, and I really think that we should abide by the tradition. So and by the way, I get it. It's not that one side believes in power and the other doesn't. They're lying. Like they're not. It would be bad enough if they were being honest. It would be so pathetic if they were being honest. But they're not being honest. They're pathetic and liars at the same time. And so that's what we're caught between these people that will literally do. There's no limit to how crazy they are, how far they will go. And then the Democrats, that the best we get is this mealy mouth lies. And so, look, if you're in Texas, first of all, if you're commenting on this, please show empathy for the people who will actually be affected by this, who are the people of Texas, people who might be pregnant in Texas. And look, I joked about not going to Texas, but if your commentary is seriously leave Texas, move out, I want you to put yourself in the position of people who can't just up and move their entire lives, okay? These are difficult times. Most people don't have the money to just leave if they want to. But on that note about the money, if you can give, the Texas Equal Access Fund is raising money, matching donations up to $10,000. You can go to tfund.org/NTX Giving Day, tfund.org/NTX Giving Day, the Texas Equal Access Fund, to make sure that the people who desperately need the resources to exercise their reproductive rights in Texas will be able to do so. So that is something you can do today if you're as angry as I am. Any final thoughts on this before we move on, Jayar?
I just want to whisper of a dream. Think about the extreme measures and things that Republicans do, specifically in this case, Abbott and the legislator there, for their constituents that come up with whatever it is they want to believe. This minority of people, by the way, that want abortion to be completely outlawed in the country. Imagine some of the things that people on the other side of the aisle may want their politicians to do, as I mentioned before, from healthcare to student loan debt, to climate change. Any of these things that people actually want, if these things actually happened at the pace and definitive nature that a lot of Republicans serve their minority of crazy voters, imagine how much support you'd have. But it's too bold, it's too radical. Is this too bold? Is this too radical? Because it's happening.
Yeah, it's happening. And look, it strikes me that I don't know if we've explicitly said this. I imagine everyone watching this understands the implications here of not just Texas passing the bill, but the Supreme Court allowing it to stand. It's so we're focusing on Texas because Texas just did it. I focus on it in part because I lived there for more than 5 years. How many Republican state legislatures are furiously typing out their 6-week abortion bans and their bounty system right now?
100%.
So how many states are gonna have this in 1 week? How many states are gonna have this in a month? How many millions of people right now live in states where they might technically have reproductive rights, although there's many states where you effectively don't. If you live in Louisiana, good luck exercising your rights there right now, let alone after this. And so soon they will wake up in a state where their rights are a thing that maybe you'll learn about in an outdated textbook or something like that.
And by the way, don't get it twisted, anyone. The politicians that were part of this, when their mistresses have an issue or they need to get a procedure done, they will not be getting reported for $10,000 a pop. They will be getting their procedures done. Trust.
Exactly.
It's always been that way.
Yeah, and as many people rightly say, abortion bans do not ban abortion. They ban safe abortions. That's what they ban. They certainly don't ban rich abortion, and the abortions will still happen. They just won't be safe, and more loss of life might happen. I want to also briefly let you know about the fact that, look, obviously we're focusing on this particular bill for a very good reason, but a lot of bills are going into effect right now. And so let's cover a bit of that right now. Let's see, we've got legislation forbidding balloting methods that the county introduced last year to make voting easier during the pandemic, including drive-through polling places and 24-hour voting, as well as temporary voting locations. The Republicans looked into it, and it turned out that all of those had the horrible side effect of allowing people to vote. So that's gone. Bars election officials from sending voters unsolicited absentee ballot applications and from promoting the use of vote by mail. They literally can't encourage people to vote by mail now. Poll watchers are empowered, so get ready for more Proud Boys berating you as you try to vote in Houston. New criminal and civil penalties for poll workers, new barriers for those who need assistance to vote, such as with translations. That's not a racist thing though at all.
Yeah,
large Texas counties, just the large ones, have to provide live streaming video at ballot counting locations. Why? I mean, nothing was found to have been done. Like a year spent now trying to show that something untoward was done in these places has come up with nothing. But we should also make them pay the money to do the live streaming too. Let's see, they've banned critical race theory, which nobody was learning about in Texas anyway. Let's see, felonies for protesters blocking roads. So yeah, if reproductive rights are not the only rights that are being infringed on here, the First Amendment, that was fun. If the First Amendment was so important, they would have put it first, okay? We're all about the Second Amendment in Texas. A ban on homeless encampments. Hey, they expanded medical cannabis access. So more call for it this week. Anyway,
by the way,
final thoughts.
Again, this is making illegal promotion of voting in America. Just think about it. It's making it nearly illegal to promote voting in America. Remember those voting campaigns in the 90s? Rock the vote. Bring out all the celebrities. Rock the, let's have a concert. Rock the vote, right?
Yep.
No, not anymore. We don't want people to vote. Don't vote. And I'm sorry. We don't want people in large cities and states to vote because we know who lives there. And also translation services. So you can't know what's on a ballot. Because that's American-like. We're this melting pot. We're the shining example on a hill. Bring me all of your best people from other countries, and we're gonna build this country that's made up of so many other types of people and cultures, which makes us great. Yeah. Unless you wanna vote.
Now, Jayar, you are pointing out hypocrisy, and I gotta do a fact check for you. They never believed that. So some did, but yeah. Anyway, look, we have a lot of other things to talk about. I'm gonna keep it real right now. I feel like don't so much care about anything else that's going on right now, but there's a lot of other stuff going on. So I'm gonna keep it real with you. Like we saw this coming, and this is not the culmination. It's gonna get worse. The Supreme Court is showing you who they are. But I'm glad that Breyer's thinking about maybe I'll retire. Maybe I'll wait for Tucker Carlson and Ron DeSantis to be president. We'll be back after this. Okay, everybody, let's see what's going on out there in the audience. Carol, thank you for becoming a tier 1 member on YouTube. I appreciate you being here, Carol. Thank you. Moore says, have recently been trying to avoid certain COVID-related news stories, specifically stories about kids ending up in hospital ICU with COVID. They're not good for my mental health. Yeah, and I get that. And look, we all have to decide what our level of exposure we can take is. If people need time off from the news or certain types of news, look, obviously that hurts us views-wise, but I don't begrudge you that at all. Myself, and I think I can speak for most members of the team, are feeling the effects. Joaquim, welcome to tier 1 YouTube membership as well. Thank you for being here. Vicky Gray sent in a super chat saying, love the Jayar tube man. Happy Wednesday from Santa Blah Blah, California. I love Santa Blah Blah.
Santa Blah Blah. Yeah.
Her tube man. Jonathan says, I beg to defer, good sir. We got some good news. We have John and Jayar. Stay awesome and safe, Dragon Squad. Thank you, that's really nice of you. Let's see, Dragon Dancer says, best way to spend a Wednesday, John, Jayar, and covered in corgis. Have a good one, Dragon Squad. Well, come on, share the corgis at the very least. No. We used to have some corgis here at TYT, but now we're corgiless.
Depending on if the corgis, are providing any kind of mess on top of you. I mean, crawling with corgis might be a problem. I don't know. I'm just picturing a bad situation.
That's for sure. Let's see. Loki said, imagine if Bush did a bounty for the war on drugs. Dear God, can you imagine?
Don't give me any ideas.
They're gonna set up some sort of QAnon bounty thing for child trafficking or something. Oh God, I do not like this precedent at all. Mama Bear Dragon says, I wasn't even allowed to schedule a confirmation of pregnancy appointment until at least 7 weeks. This is BS. Yes, but also purposeful.
Absolutely.
Very purposeful BS. It's not a mistake, it's not an accident. Like when I mention, and a lot of people have, that you might not even know by then, we're not trying to educate them. They know that, they don't care. They wanna ban it at 1 minute. Progressive Canuck says, I wonder if all the white males in charge, if they feel because they can't make that choice given they are male, they have to control that choice for others. Don't dare talk about vaccines to them. Freedom. I mean, look, hierarchies and establishing hierarchies are like basically the core of right-wing thought, and it affects every issue. It's one of the clearest outside of racism is the misogyny thing, that women will always be subservient to men. And any effort to change that is going to make the most pathetic men in the country chafe. Just ask Tucker Carlson about members of the service who are women. Or by the way, let me quickly mention, because I was gonna do this in the pre-show. I watched a movie last night called Shadow in the Cloud, and it's Chloe Grace Moretz stars in it. It's an action movie about a World War II, a woman who's on a plane and there's a gremlin or whatever. It's good, you should watch it. I made the mistake of going to the user reviews on Metacritic, and man, are men pathetic. They couldn't take that a woman was the star of this thing. Like, it's not, she knows how to shoot guns. She knows how to punch. I don't accept that. I love John McClane. He was great in that movie. I love Rambo. I love all these. Oh, I think you're revealing yourself there.
Jesus.
Men are so pathetic. Like, if you're a weak man, I don't have a ready solution to all of your problems, but I can guess that the solution is not calling everything that makes you even mildly like inconvenienced or uncomfortable woke. I don't think that's gonna solve all your problems. Anyway, I apologize. I didn't get to as many super chats as I want to because I'm a little bit bad today, but we will get to them in the next break. That said, we have a lot of other news to get to as well, so I will see you on the other side. By the way, somebody asked me what the movie was. It was Shadow in the Cloud, Chloe Grace Moretz. It's a good movie. It's over the top, it's crazy. It's good though, give it a watch. Anyway, with that, Jayar, why don't we get into some fact checks?
Well, I mean, we're fire breathing dragon today. I guess you should make it happen, John. We're gonna change your name, bro.
Yeah, I guess we are. Okay, let's do this. There's been a lot of nonsense being spread as the US has pulled out of Afghanistan. I want to do a bit of fact checking about some of this. So the most important one, perhaps, has to do with a video that's been going around of what appears to be a person being hung from a Black Hawk helicopter in Afghanistan. It's spread everywhere on the right. You can see senators like Ted Cruz retweeting the video saying this horrifying image encapsulates Joe Biden's Afghanistan catastrophe. The Taliban hanging a man from an American Black Hawk helicopter. Tragic, unimaginable. Dan Crenshaw says, in what effing world was it a good idea to just hand over a country to these people? Just bear in mind, he wants us to still be in there. So just bear that in mind. So here's the thing. Ted Cruz says it's unimaginable. And yeah, it kind of is, because that's not what the video actually shows. Bilal Sawari, who's an independent journalist in the region, says an Afghan pilot flying that helicopter is someone who I've known over the years. He was trained in the US and UAE. He confirmed to me that he flew the helicopter. Taliban fighter seen here was trying to install a Taliban flag from the air, but it didn't work in the end. And we're glad that there was that confirmation of it. You could have also watched the other videos that were flowing around, which show the man who's hanging from his waist, waving at some point. But that's not fun. No, this has to encapsulate something. And so it might not encapsulate, as Ted Cruz said, the entire Joe Biden Afghanistan catastrophe. It does encapsulate the right's attachment to fact. It's loose, it's pretty loose.
This is it's a perfect storm for folks like this. Like, it's even better that it's not real, because then they can continue to fool people that it is real, and then we actually have a man hanging from a helicopter that was an interpreter for, because that'd be a disaster for that man, right? And so we get to have a nice clean BS lie here to tell people, oh yeah, there was a guy hanging from the helicopter. And after we found out that it wasn't the case, let's keep pushing that, because who cares? Nothing we say is real anyway. They've lost the level of consciousness decades ago. There's no way they're coming back from this now. You think they're gonna come back and say, oh, we've updated our information, or we've been updated on our information, our lies, and we've discovered that we were wrong. Sorry.
Well, I mean, nobody does that. But we're gonna have, so that what you just laid out, Jayar, is what a serious person, a mature person would do. So we have less than that. But here is Ted Cruz, who eventually had to respond to the fact that he had spread this video. He tweeted, it turns out the post I shared with a video of Taliban hanging a man from a helicopter may be inaccurate. So I deleted the tweet. No, not may. It's not true. That already sucks. Then he says, what remains accurate is the Taliban are brutal terrorists. We left them millions in US military equipment, including Black Hawk helicopters. So it may be inaccurate, but I was still basically right. And so my follow-up question, Ted Cruz, were you pressuring the administration over the past 6 months to make sure that we get all that equipment out? Was this a thing that you thought about for literally 10 seconds this year? Not just conveniently after the fact you're thinking about it. But Jayar, that Ted Cruz non-apology is not the worst thing you could do. How about this? You can share that video after all the fact checks, which is what Sean Hannity did on his program, which is watched by hundreds of thousands of people. He just went with it anyway. I guess he woke up yesterday wanting to cover it. Turned out it wasn't true, and he's not gonna let that stop him. By the way, Dan Crenshaw might have taken down the tweet. As of this morning, he had not. Also, Don Jr., his header image is still an image of the helicopter as of right now. Still, it's been fact checked. And the thing is, how many of the elderly people who watch Fox News are ever gonna hear the fact check, Jayar?
Never.
They're gonna think that was true for the rest of their lives. For the next 6 months, they're gonna think it is true.
Yeah, and then the narrative, at least in their circles, will be, hey, did you hear about how they lied and said that wasn't really an interpreter hanging from the helicopter? Because that's not true. Everyone I've talked to said that it is true. That's why Sean Hannity continued to push it.
Yeah, okay, so that was nonsense, but that was hardly the only Afghanistan-related nonsense that Fox was spreading. Bearing in mind, of course, that Fox technically says they approve of the withdrawal, but they still have to get something out of it. So, for instance, when Biden was meeting with the families of some of the soldiers who died, the service members who died in Afghanistan, it was spread that he looked at his watch. So, within about 15 minutes of the actual ceremony, the host on Newsmax, Benny Johnson, who's total garbage, tweeted the clip out and said it appears that Biden is checking his watch. It instantly spread to the Boston Herald, the Daily Wire, the Daily Mail, the New York Post. Do you want to know how damning the actual video is of him checking his watch? Well, it's so damning that when Fox News played it, they had to make it look bad by slowing it down. They put his motion in slow motion at roughly half the speed to double the time that he apparently was looking at his watch. If it was bad, they would have just used it. It wasn't bad enough, but they still used it.
What does that mean? What does it mean? He checked his watch. Now say the next sentence. Not you, but what's the next thought? Which means, so that says he's, just say it. Instead, they like to leave it hanging so the people who are already upset can then go, he doesn't care. Oh my God, he's trying to get out of there. Do you know what else he was doing? Do you know what he was looking for on his watch? I have a watch. I have an Android watch. You know what it tells me? It tells me sometimes to get up and walk. Sometimes it tells me that my battery's low. Sometimes it tells me there's an alarm. Sometimes there's another alarm that says, hey, you might want to take your medicine. All that stuff happens on a watch. I don't care why he was looking at his watch. What was he saying? What was he doing? What has he done since? We find ourselves, and they know, not we find ourselves here. They purposely look to splinter off of very tangential nonsense things. Yes, you know what happened? People were mad when President Trump was in a meeting and he was looking at his phone. You know why? Because they correlated that with him tweeting nonsense about something completely unrelated while he's in a meeting about something that's important. That's why it mattered there. There was a specific thing that happened that showed he was completely disconnected from the meeting he was in. As he says, he worked so hard and he's doing everything to change the country. It showed that he's disconnected and doesn't know what's happening. If you show me that Joe Biden is disconnected and doesn't know what's happening with something, fine, I'll accept that. Joe Biden is not my uncle. I don't care. But just say he looks at his watch as a thing. What's next? Why do we care?
Somebody in the chat is saying that his son's bracelet is kept on that wrist. I don't know that for sure. You can't tell from the video, but I also know that they don't care. We could look. I don't love Joe Biden. Many people in the audience don't love Joe Biden. If we wanted to list 100 faults of his, we could. But lack of empathy for people who've lost their kids isn't one of them. It's just nonsense. So they have to attack him on that. What Trump was always good at was comforting people who lost people under his rule. Anyway, let's see, how nonsensical can the nonsense get? Well, they spread the idea that we'd left a ton of military service dogs behind. It's not true. The Department of Defense says they weren't left behind. That's not what the photos showed, but they're still running with that. By the way, Don Jr.'s pinned tweet when we went live was about the service dogs. So on the front of his Twitter was 2 lies that had already been disproved. But yeah, he really cares about what's going on in Afghanistan. Anyway, look, I want to get to the most, I guess, substantive lie that's being spread. And honestly, it's one that I bought, at least as of yesterday. I'd heard this number thrown around, so I thought it was true. The idea of the dollar value of the weapons and vehicles that were left behind, you've probably heard this thrown around, this $83 billion. I thought that was actually true. It's not. Technically, $82.9 billion is the estimate for all spending on the Afghanistan security forces since 2001. So everything that has been spent, literally housing people, food, all of that is that. Now, back in 2017, Government Accountability Office report estimated that about 29% of the funds that were spent between 2005 and 2016 went to actual equipment and transportation. So assuming that that is true across the entire 20 years, that would be about $24 billion. And bear in mind, it's still a lot of vehicles. Between 2005 and 2016, US taxpayers paid for about 76,000 vehicles. That's 43,000 Ford Ranger pickup trucks, 22,000 Humvees, 900 MRAPs, 600,000 weapons, and more than 200 aircraft. But let's also bear in mind that there's 2 issues with that. So one, you might say, okay, so it's 24 billion rather than 83. Well, first of all, I think that actually knowing what you're talking about matters. That's why I'm correcting myself. But also, even that's not technically true because many of those vehicles were bought almost 20 years ago. They're not still in service. They don't have the maintenance to keep them going, even if they were now. And many, by the way, were actually destroyed in the run up to us leaving. So General Kenneth McKenzie announced that the military demilitarized 70 MRAPs, 27 Humvees, 73 aircraft, saying those aircraft will never fly again. They'll never be able to be operated by anyone. So
that doesn't matter, John.
Nonsense.
That's such a weird fact that the military people have a process in place that if they leave equipment that it's useless. Oh my God, I guess you're gonna make up something else now. Now, instead of listening to people who maybe do this, because I didn't know that. I didn't know that they decommission or just break down things and make sure that they're unusable. If they leave them, fine. But you know what question isn't gonna get asked after we hear about $83 billion over the 20 years in Afghanistan? Why? That's the only question that doesn't get asked. You will throw that number around and talk about how much we left there and abandoned there, but you won't then go, so why are we prepared to approve yet another military bill that will provide trillions of dollars more for the next several wars? Yeah. Are we ready to ask those questions next? Because we're asking questions about how much we just wasted. Let's finish the conversation. Are we gonna waste it again?
Yeah.
Are you gonna vote to waste it again?
Yes. Yeah, they're already proposing raising the military budget.
Absolutely.
So we subtract a war, we raise the budget. Makes sense to me.
And we complain about the money we spent only because of the way we came out. That's the only time we worry about that.
Exactly. Yeah, and about like if anything fell into the hands of the Taliban, I hate it. But there's a few inconvenient facts about that narrative that they do not acknowledge. One, the weapons were not handed over to the Taliban. They were handed to a military and a government that was supposed to be able to stand. It didn't. But I got news for you. Without any of that stuff, there was no chance that it was going to. There was at least a chance. Yeah, second of all, they did do some, Trump keeps saying he wants them to have bombed all the bases or whatever, which by the way, we're occupied by that military. So they did decommission a bunch of the stuff. Is he giving credit to them? No. And third of all, so what exactly happened? Trump started the withdrawal. He released all those Taliban fighters and everything. He set an earlier timeline. He wanted us to be out by spring rather than fall. So did he have a detailed plan to take back all of this equipment and destroy what we can't? Was that plan not followed by Joe Biden? Or is this something that he never even thought about and is just now saying it conveniently so that he can criticize a thing that technically he supports? Which do you think it is if you're watching this video right now? Anyway, we're gonna take our second break, Jayar. When we come back, we're gonna be mixing things up, talking about January 6th. We're gonna get things together. Join us after this.
No, we won't.
Everything is nonsense. Everybody is lying and stupid simultaneously. They're all stupid liars. Anyway, comment Elizabeth. Greetings from sunny Scotland. Greetings to sunny Scotland. I hope you're actually sunny. Okay, let's see. Musically Meg says, of course they can find $10,000 to poop on women's rights, but universal health care is completely financially impossible.
Totally.
Yeah, they cut enhanced unemployment benefits, but they can give cash bounties for you tracking down someone that helped a woman exercise her rights.
Okay, where's that money come from, John? Where's that money? Where's the 10,000 come from?
I assume the taxpayers of Texas.
I wonder if some of these taxpayers don't want to provide taxpayer money for this type of stuff. Do they get to opt out? Do they get to say, all the same stuff that we say about taxpayer-funded Planned Parenthood or clinics?
Doubt it. Andrea Larson says, I had an abortion when I was 20. I already had a 2-year-old and knew I wasn't in a position to have another child. It was the worst thing I've ever gone through. Had this law been in place, it would have been so much worse. Yes, and they don't care about your experience, about the experience of anyone else who might be affected by this. They simply do not care. Economicon says, one lie that infuriates me is we left Taliban equipment. Was given to the Afghan army to defend themselves. If we didn't, they would have fallen faster. So that came in before we talked about that. But yes, I obviously agree with you. Let's see, Kelly says, it is in the same place as his healthcare plan. Exactly. By the way, Meditating Over Dragon has a great idea. So like they're doing the $10,000 if you stop someone from having an abortion. Are they readily handing out $10,000 checks to help poor women raise the child? They do that. They never do that. That's a great point, Meditating Over Dragon. Well, $10,000 for someone else to force you to do. Some whack job from Utah can force a poor woman in Austin to give birth. He gets money, not her. They're sending the money out of the state.
Out of state.
Out of state. Out of my mind. G. George, welcome to your one YouTube membership. Appreciate being here. Two-headed dragon as well. Thank you. Chris says, when we complete our withdrawal from Texas, do you think Republicans will reject those refugees too? Again, people can't just leave, but I appreciate this.
Yeah, we need like a side organization that reports women and people who are going to these clinics, collects the $10,000, then helps them get the hell out of that state, gives them some money. It's like, here, I collected money. Here, go somewhere else. Take care of yourself, please, because they're out to get you.
Yeah. Okay, let's see. RC Tycoon says, wacky waving inflatable arm flailing tube man. Wacky waving inflatable arm flailing tube man. Hi, I'm Al Harrington, home of the wacky waving inflatable arm flailing tube man emporium. Anna would have loved that. I wish I could have that. Anyway, Mike Boy Raps resubscribed for 4 months. Thank you. Thank you everybody who's helping cheer us up. We really do appreciate it today. Okay, let's see. Miravina says, I just think our government wants us to die. They certainly don't mind. Let's see. Tell me what to put. Gifted a tier 1 sub. Thank you very much for that. Kodiak Dragon gifted, cheered 300 bits. Inked Betty Gaming cheered 200. I got through that eventually. Thank you. Rick, New York City, subscribed for 4 months. Says thanks to the TYT family for all your tireless work. Helps me stay sane. Thank you. It is the only thing keeping me, well, whatever I am now. Whatever you each evaluate the level of my sanity. Without you guys, I don't know how to even have that. Okay, and Tyler says, this all matters. People must start acting like it. I agree. We've got more stuff that matters after this. Hey Peace always says, why are the men not responsible? Because they're men. That's why they're conservative men. That's not why they're not responsible. Okay, with that, oh God, I forgot about this. Let's move into this video.
These telecommunications companies, if they go along with this, they will be shut down, and that's a promise.
Good, I hope they're afraid of you. They should be. They should be.
They should be. But why should telecommunications companies be afraid of Marjorie Greene? Well, she is threatening to shut down some of the largest corporations in the country, in the world, if they cooperate with the commission that's looking into January 6th. And you might say, well, who cares what she says? She's just a crazy. Well, yes, you're right, but it's not just her, as we'll get to. But what is this really about? The select committee this week sent letters to 35 companies asking them to preserve a number of records, including communications giants such as Google and Microsoft and all major cell phone carriers. These are the companies she's talking about shutting down. They also included requests to encrypted messaging app Signal, right-leaning social media networks such as Parler, and more fringe websites such as 4chan and Gab. So if they comply with this commission, she is saying the Republicans will shut them down. Let's give a little bit more of her threat in this video.
And these cell phone companies, these telecommunications companies, they better not play with these Democrats, because Republicans are coming back into the majority in 2022, and we will take this very serious.
So Jayar, if they comply, and if it's against the law, if they're being asked to do something illegal, then obviously they don't need to comply, nor will they. But assuming that what they're being asked to do is within the law, she is saying, and we'll get to others, saying if they comply with legal requests for oversight into criminal behavior, we will shut them down once we take power again. What do you think about that?
It's weird. It's this preemptive warnings against companies about what they can and can't do based off requests from members of Congress that are conducting an investigation. So previous to them doing anything, there's threats being tossed out there about their livelihood, their existence, based off of what, I don't know. And also, how are you gonna shut them down? What is you gonna do? Where are they gonna go? What about all the users that haven't had their user information been requested? What happens to them? None of these things have been thought out. And the reason that none of these things have been thought out is because these are empty threats. These are threats looking to rile up supporters. You notice at the end of that whole little clip, she talks about how we're gonna win in 22, and then we're really gonna do something. It all comes back to that. It's a 2022 campaign promise. It's a 2022 push and agenda, and something that they wish they can get their people riled up to vote for, based off of now something else that has nothing to do with them helping their citizens, nothing to do with helping their constituents. It's all it is just, hey, let's rile them up one more time and say that we're gonna get rid of those telecommunication companies, and then the knee-jerk reactions will then go, yeah, vote for her because she's gonna get rid of those telecommunication companies like T-Mobile. In my phone right now. That's your phone, bro. That's yours. But they know that the thought process doesn't go beyond the first sentence, so they can just push this. Now, if there was something illegal, as you said about these requests, which when I first read it, I was like, man, this is gonna provide for a very easy slippery slope argument from the opposition to this. Be like, they're gonna take everyone's information. Information is gonna be swirling around free anytime a politician wants it. They can have that argument, and you can also sue. You can also try and interrupt this process and keep them from doing it. That's what you would do as a politician, going the legal route. Instead, you're gonna go on TV and you're gonna write statements to point out how much you're gonna end them. No, that's a promotional thing right there. That's a flyer. That's not any kind of way of a politician working.
Well, I agree with you. She certainly hasn't thought this out. And look, as is being pointed out in the chat, like threatening to cancel all of these companies for complying with the thing seems like a weird thing for the right to do. All of a sudden they're against surveillance. Well, that's good. I hope that you maintain that position going forward. Again, this is about particular individuals who might have coordinated with those who committed these acts. The only fact check I'll do on you is you said that she's not serving her constituents. I have a feeling she had at least a few that probably attacked the Capitol on the 6th. But let's also point out, by the way, that Green, who's being interviewed by a major host, is saying they shouldn't comply, they shouldn't give the records. She is potentially implicated in this criminal behavior. Were there any questions about that from Tucker Carlson about who she was communicating with? Of course not, of course not. But anyway, as I alluded to, this is not just Marjorie Greene who is doing this. Kevin McCarthy, leader of the Republicans in the House, said if these companies comply with the Democrat order to turn over private information, they are in violation of federal law and subject to losing their ability to operate in the United States. If companies still choose to violate federal law, a Republican majority will not forget and will stand with Americans to hold them fully accountable under the law.
What does that mean?
Now they asked him, I'm shutting down, they can't operate. But he was asked which law they were going to be breaking, and he did not cite a law.
Yeah,
he didn't say any particular law.
Bro, that's why I said it. It means nothing. There's nothing to it. And again, what was at the end of that other statement? When the Republicans get the majority, we will do this, we will do that. It's a campaign. It's a campaign stop. This is a campaign event. Go on, put out a statement, go on TV and say you're gonna shut them down. This is not based in any kind of reality. It's not based on anything they say they can and will do because they may have said so. And if you can do something, do it. There's legal avenues you can go down. They don't want to talk about that because that'll be something that doesn't rile up their stupid base. Their stupid base has to think further than just one statement. So that's where they are.
Exactly. Yeah, and look, again, maybe it's just baseless. Maybe it won't affect any of these companies. But look, and by the way, Kevin McCarthy is not that much more serious of an individual or political actor than Marjorie Greene, but he is Republican leadership. So you have Marjorie Greene go on Fox News to say the crazy thing she has to say, and it is basically indistinguishable from what the leadership of the Republicans in the House are saying. 100%. So supposedly on some things, there's like this divide between them. This seems like a pretty substantive one. Neither of them wants any answers about what happened on the 6th. Because there's still the chance that more is gonna happen. We were just showing the video of Madison Cawthorn yesterday, effectively saying we have plans to call you back to DC again. Like, we are trying to avoid another January 6th. When I say we, I mean some people, not these people, obviously. Okay, move on to one more topic. Man, this hour is passing by fast. Jeez. Okay, we're gonna do one more topic. What does Ron Johnson really think happened in the November election last year? Well, we have a bit of undercover video being provided by progressive journalist Lauren Windsor, who, by the way, like doesn't get enough credit for the amazing work that she so constantly does. Like very often I find stories and don't even realize, oh wait, that was Lauren Windsor that just did that. Well, she got this video. So here is a bit of her speaking with the senator.
You know that Joe Biden didn't win this election. I mean, in my heart of hearts, I just.
Well, so
he didn't win.
Do you know that? Do you
think that Joe Biden won this election?
Do you know in Wisconsin? Do you know the vote totals?
I don't know.
So without knowing the vote totals, you can't even state that opinion.
I just really need all the small chatter.
No. So let me give you the vote totals.
I know that there was a late night dump in Milwaukee, a vote dump. I don't remember exactly what the numbers were.
Well, we've done a recount in Milwaukee. Prior to this election, I was the #1 vote getter statewide, just under 1.5 million votes. Okay. This election, Trump got 1,610,000. No Republican had ever cracked 1.5 million. Numerous Democrats have gone over 1.6 and 1.5. So now, for the first time in history, we have a presidential candidate beating my vote total by 130,000 votes. Collectively, the state assembly candidates and just Republican state assembly candidates got 1,661,000. The 8 congressional candidates also got 1,661,000. So we obviously counted enough Republican votes. The only reason Trump lost Wisconsin is 51,000 Republican voters didn't vote for him. They voted for other Republican candidates.
So you're telling me that Joe Biden won this state fair and square? Because I don't see it. I don't believe it.
Well, look at the totals. It's certainly plausible. There's nothing obviously skewed about the results. There isn't.
There's nothing skewed about the results.
About the results in Wisconsin. Now, I'm not saying what's happening in Maricopa County. I don't know. Saying look at the number again. Collectively.
Wisconsin and Georgia and Arizona.
Listen. You're not listening.
I am listening.
So listen. Collectively, Republicans got 1.661 million votes. 51,000 more votes than Trump got. Trump lost by 20,000. If Trump got all the Republicans voted for Trump the way they voted for the assembly candidates, he would have won. He didn't get 51,000 votes that other Republicans got. That's why he lost.
Okay.
So look, there obviously Lauren Windsor is sort of posing as a MAGA person with the red hat, and I just don't see it. I don't all those states. Anyway, no, she by the way, so she's the host of the Undercurrent. You can go to undercurrent.tv. Her social media, she's gonna have more commentary about this and everything. She does great work. So there, like, she gets him to defend with actual numbers the fact that they did not undercount Donald Trump. It was consistent not only with other Republican candidates, but it was higher than the vote totals in past elections. The thing is, like, just say this publicly. Like, you know, he was reached for comment by the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel, and he said it is consistent with what I've been saying publicly on the 2020 election. No need for hidden cameras. But the thing is, he's previously said in Wisconsin there were many election procedures that did not conform with state election law and a number of issues, balloting in the park, Mark Zuckerberg's donations affecting local control of vote counting, late central ballot counting on absentee ballots that should be addressed. Okay, but then in public, you're still trying to make people suspicious. You're pointing out all of these things that at the end of the day, you admit didn't change the result, didn't result in an undercount. Well, then why are you trying to make people think that we desperately need some sort of change to election law in your state?
He held that hearing that was talking about the Homeland Security and the government affairs and just bringing up Trump's election lies and all that stuff. He's promoted this lie over and over and over again and trying to work his way to do this. Now, the specifics that he laid down, like exhaustively to Lauren as she was playing that role, shows how well he knows the opposite reality. It shows just how detailed he knows what happened and how it happened because he looked into it and he knows, but what he won't say is this out loud. Why? Why won't he say it out loud? Because that's not politically expedient. They care about their politics more than the reality of the country. This gets proven over and over and over again. Also, by the way, they're pushing all these audits of their states. The committee that he's a part of approved that what is a $680,000 budget for an official probe into some of these states' 2020 election results. Whose money is that? $680,000 for probes into these election results when the guy who's part of approving it knows it's BS. Yeah. He knows it. He doesn't care about the money. We're talking about these frugal Republicans, they're conservatives, but the tax and spend Democrats just don't do all this money. They're wasting our money away. $680,000 for an obvious lie that he says is a lie to someone who's telling him that same line of attack. He was exhausted by how stupid she was being like any other MAGA. He's like, you're not listening to me. You're not listening to me.
Yeah. A lot of money.
You're tired of people lying, huh? Only in private, but not in public. You're embracing them when it's public.
Yeah. And as we said before, she's playing a character there, like it was necessary to get the information. I couldn't do it.
She's great.
Yeah. A lot of money being spent on that. Think about how many bounties they could pay for with that. But anyway, look, so obviously we're critical of him, but look, to the extent that he'll admit that the election wasn't stolen, I understand that when this video came out, a lot of people's response, like, libs, their response was, let's make it go viral and hurt him. But like, okay, obviously we have issues with a number of the things he said and done, but the fundamental willingness to accept that it was actually fair, like I want that to go viral because maybe it'll convince people, not just to hurt him. Like I care more about people respecting and caring about democracy than Ron Johnson. I think few people really care about Ron Johnson.
Oh no, so anyway, they'll just turn on him. There's no way they'll change their minds. No,
probably.
He's been bought by Biden is what'll happen.
Yeah. Anyway, we have less than a minute. I'm gonna read one or two quick super chats with the time we have remaining. Angie says, my body, my choice. When it comes to wearing a mask or getting a vaccine, it's all about personal freedom, but not for women. Shame on everyone involved. Talking about what's going on in Texas, obviously. Nana says we were Orwellian to require masks, vaccines, and quarantine, but they'll pay a snitch for info leading to the capture of a person involved in abortion. Exactly. And think about how many false accusations, how many baseless accusations are gonna drag people into court for absolute nonsense. And that is by design again. Anyway, we'll read more in a bit. That's all the time we have for our first hour. So for our linear audience, thank you so much for watching. If you're watching on YouTube or on Twitch, we do have a lot more news coming, including an even darker turn to the weatherman being accosted while covering a hurricane. We got that and more after this. Welcome back, everyone. Twitch and YouTube, glad to have you here. Wanted to remind you that there's still just a little bit of time to vote in our poll. So yesterday at tyt.com/polls, we voted a poll asking you, will the Republicans impeach Biden following the 2022 election? We're gonna be reading the results of that poll to close out the show in like 23 minutes or so. So if you wanna go to tyt.com/polls, you can let us know what you think about that there. I wanna let you know about a couple of things before we jump back into the news, including not only is Indisputable coming up after the Damage Report, as it does, but they have a special co-host, one Cenk Uygur, I think it's pronounced.
Swagger.
I think that's what it is. How exciting is that? Cenk's gonna be joining Dr. Rashad. That's awesome. Mark Meckler will also be on for a debate. And I wanna remind you, as always, many of you I know are members, either members through tyt.com or you might subscribe on Twitch, or you might be a member on YouTube. Being a member though, through the network directly is considered the thing that makes us most stable, able to weather things like bizarre algorithmic changes and things like that. And we appreciate everyone who joins us in membership and lets us keep doing what we're doing. So if you want to be a part of the change that TYT is trying to bring and has been trying to bring for 20 plus years, go to tyt.com/change and you can get information about membership there. With that, Jayar, are you ready to jump back into things?
I'm not sure. You still mad?
I'm okay. Okay. The super chats and the messages and the comments and all that really help. Okay. Good. Green-eyed lurker dragon subscribed for 14 months. Thank you. How nice is that?
Yeah, better mood now. See, good.
Good. Yeah, I'm feeling. We'll see. We'll see. But anyway, let's jump back into things.
The force of the storm last night is that the mail delivery has returned. We saw postal workers going out delivering mail this morning. Just a couple of minutes ago, people were walking their dogs. They're back on the beach right now. And that's the sense that you're getting, that the rain has stopped. The wind is still going there. I think we even have a random person going around. I'm going to turn this way because, we deal with some people every once in a while. But, one thing that we are noticing is that the mayor said the curfew is still in effect. The curfew is going to be going on for at least until a period of time in which they can go ahead and survey all the damage. They did get some reports of some down power lines, of some trees that have fallen, or at least limbs that have fallen. So they're going to go ahead and do that survey to make sure that they're okay. Craig, I'm going to toss it back to you because we have a person who needs a little help right now.
Hey. We're going to check in with Shaquille Brewster just to make sure all is well. There's a lot of crazy out there, There's a lot of crazy
out there, JR, a lot of crazy. So many people watching this are familiar with that video of Shaquille Brewster reporting on the tropical storm as it's coming in. Posted a message afterwards saying, appreciate the concern, guys. The team and I are all good. And obviously, like, if you have to do this thing where you're dispatched to a dangerous area to report on a storm, the last thing you want is, as Kim Sushi pointed out, Peter Griffin running up on you during your live shot and screaming in your face. That's not what you want. But it actually gets a little bit worse because that guy isn't just some crazy, he's a crazy with a record. So Gulfport police announced on Tuesday that the public had helped them identify him as Benjamin Eugene Dagley, like the ultimate serial killer name, but anyway, as the likely assailant, and the truck that he's traveling in. Authorities issued arrest warrants for him on charges of simple assault, disrupting the peace, and violating the emergency curfew in place due to the storm. And he's gonna have a hard time claiming that he didn't know about the curfew because the guy he was assaulting was trying to tell him about it as he was assaulting him. But anyway, they put out this tweet showing both the car as well as the ironic smirk on his face there. Now here's the issue. This guy does have a record. He had previous run-ins with the law in Ohio, may also face charges for violating his probation by traveling to another state. Police said that it's believed that he's left the Gulfport area, but his current whereabouts are unknown. At least as of when we're filming this, he still has not been found. And court documents show that the 54-year-old once pleaded guilty to vandalism, including inducing panic and attempted assault. It's a crazy crime too. They reported that he was arrested on suspicion of drilling holes into tanks of dangerous chemicals back in 2017. Like chemicals like hydrochloric acid and other things like that resulted in someone getting sick. So, country's filled up with people like that. As that reporter said, yeah, there's a lot of crazy out there, JR.
I wonder why the crime issues keep happening in our country like this. We need more police on the streets. This guy has
a cultural thing. It's a culture. There's something wrong in the crazed white man culture.
That you then, by the way, imagine having a track record like this guy has, doing dangerous things like he's done, and still being run around on the streets, then still feeling bold enough to pull up in the background of a live news shot with your truck in sight, you running from it with the entire new crime that you're committing caught on camera. That's the level of privilege and thought process that comes from these folks. Imagine having anything, you have been arrested for anything, let alone drilling holes into some kind of a chemical bin to release the fumes. Imagine that's the crime that you've been arrested for, and then you still feel like you can pull up and do something like this on camera. And his apparently sounded like his beef was reported accurately. Okay. So by the way, whatever it is that they're not reporting accurately, what is it you screaming at the reporter's face in the middle of a beach shot about the hurricane is gonna make them report whatever it is you're worried about accurately?
Hey, don't you try to tell a Ken how to Ken. He's gonna Ken the way he wants, and he seems like kind of the ultimate Ken. Yeah, what are they not reporting accurate? Like they actually sent a reporter there. Shouldn't you be happy if you want it accurate? But to the accurate reporting thing, I love this tweet from Jordan. It's about ethics in hurricane journalism, which is mocking the Gamergate thing. I don't even know how much I care about what that guy thinks is being misreported. We live in a crazed country, and as we've said many times, it's not just about how conspiracy theories are becoming more common. It's not about individual conspiracy theories. It's about conspiracism as a way of seeing the world. That everybody except a carefully selected few people are lying to you about everything, and everything is connected, and we need to fight it. That's the issue. And when you combine it with people who already have a history of criminal behavior and all that, like we're lucky that nothing happened to Shaq Brewster in that video.
Yeah, I mean, by the way, if they don't catch him anytime soon, or after they catch him and then release him in 30 days or whatever they're gonna do, or give him a couple of fines to have to pay, he'll learn the lesson. And the lesson is, I can keep doing this stuff.
Yeah,
I need to get my message out. This is the message you're sending to people. It's why, again, every time you have some of these conflicts, when we see the school board stuff or the mask or the vaccine stuff, and you see the cops around there, and you see them go, no, they're on our side. They're on our side. They've gotten the message. It's been received, and they're acting out on it.
Yeah. Ugh. Yeah, people are saying he's got Alex Jones vibes. Yeah, he was more restrained than I've seen Alex Jones running up on people in videos. But again, man, if you're a right winger, it is like so impossible to get arrested, like to actually end up behind bars. Like, think about all these grifters. Like the Wool guy or whatever has like publicly accused every Democrat of sexual like crimes and stuff like that. It's just cool. It doesn't matter. It doesn't no harm whatsoever. Anyway, I want to get now to one of the craziest stories on the rundown. This drives me insane. Okay. The right has gone crazy about critical race theory, and in their desire to ban the thing that schools aren't teaching, they are starting to rack up a head count of people losing their jobs. And we've got an instance of that. Now, I want you to hold on to your butts. The details here are pretty crazy. So back in July, there was a heated Texas school board meeting. A man accused a black principal of promoting critical race theory and, quote, the conspiracy theory of systemic racism. The man called out the principal by name in violation of the meeting's rules. You're not supposed to do that. And demanded that Whitfield, this is Principal James Whitfield, be fired. Members of the audience hollered, fire him, and applauded. Now, he wasn't pushing critical race theory, and none of them knew what they were talking about, but they were fired up, and that's what they do. So after that meeting, he posted on Facebook saying, I can no longer maintain my silence in the face of this hate, intolerance, racism, and bigotry. I am not the CRT boogeyman. I am the first African American to assume the role of principal at my current school in its 25-year history, and I am keenly aware of how much fear this strikes in the hearts of a small minority who would much rather go back to the way things used to be. So he is claiming that these people are not actually that concerned about critical race theory, the fact that it's not even taught there. They're being motivated by racism, Jayar. There's a little bit of evidence that he just might be right. So a few days after that post, a parent complained to the district about a photo Whitfield had posted on social media that showed him and his wife in an embrace celebrating their wedding anniversary. And the parent said in this email to the school, "Is this the Dr. Whitfield we wanted as an example for our students?" He was eventually asked to remove the photo. Now, the thing is, there's a lot of reporting on this. All the ones I saw didn't show the actual photo. So I went to his Facebook page, and there's a few photos on beaches. I can't guarantee that this is the photo, but I think it might be. And I think I might know why they had a problem with it if we bring it up. Look at this happy photo of this couple celebrating, I believe celebrating his promotion to principal. Jayar, why are they so mad?
I think it's because he's bald. They don't like that he has. It's explicit to show your bald head on the beach. You know,
supremacy.
Yeah, it was a problem. Men who lose their hair, it's probably hits home, close to home. Emotions run wild. It's inappropriate for a principal to mock men who've lost their hair like he probably has. That's probably it. Isn't that it?
I think that's probably it. You see that photo and you just think, what a lovely couple. I have never had as good of a photo taken of me and my wife. All my fault. She's lovely. I ruin it every time. And they must just be mad that he didn't. But no, seriously, they sent the picture, probably that picture, and said, "Is this the Dr. Whitfield we want as an example to our students?" There's nothing deeper here. There's no deep state. It's just, how dare a black man be with a white woman? And here's the thing. They suspended him. He actually lost his job.
Isn't that crazy?
So, according to him, there was no explanation. It followed weeks of controversy. There were students who were rallying to support him as principal, but parents were demanding his termination. And that is, as far as we can tell, the only evidence that was submitted to the school to force him out. There's a photo of him with his white wife.
Yeah, I don't know anything else about this principal's background or how he would approach his leadership of the school if he'd screw something else up that has nothing to do with all of this craziness that they tossed at him. But if he's a decent principal and a good educator, this school district and this school doesn't deserve him. It's a waste of his time. Yeah. It's a waste of his energy. And yeah, the kids will suffer. That's the sad part. And the problem is many of these parents who are part of this whole chanting about fire him over some accusation from some rando in the audience. Again, this is the basis for outright and end of the world, die on this hill type of stances. Some guy stood up and went, that guy's teaching critical race theory, and then it's over. Suddenly it's over. That's the basis for your entire agenda, your protests, you're showing up people's houses, you're going to school board meetings, and then you eventually getting someone fired because someone stood up and said it. That's your basis. Now, by the way, you know what else he said? This is the most ironic part.
What's that?
He said he's teaching the conspiracy theory of systemic racism. Now, that moment led to the proof that there is systemic racism, as they then went to his Facebook page, saw it's a black dude married to a white guy, problem. Then they need to get rid of him, suspend him, take down the picture, and then be fired. The system went through the entire process of finding out this black guy, who they automatically assume is an advocate for critical race theory, which isn't being taught, and then fire him over it. Because they said there's this conspiracy theory of systemic racism. You just proved it with your entire process right after you accused him of it.
I mean, 100%, and it's an example of what the irony we've pointed out, that multiple states have passed bans on critical race theory while saying there's no systemic problem here. An entire party across multiple states has passed legislation to stop us from even knowing about racism, and there's no system.
There's no system. Fun. Yeah, the system's not there. They just have a network of people talking about it in a coordinated manner.
Yeah, there's literally a system of money, fundraising that's going to all these places. But anyway, look, the reason I'm hoping that this is gonna be one of the cases where a lot of pressure will get him his job back. That's why I want people to talk about this. But I also want to talk about it because the video, like the heated school board meeting, that sort of thing gets a lot of coverage. We show videos like that because we find it abhorrent. We don't like the lies and all that. But it's happening everywhere. A lot of the time it's not filmed. That's a problem. But the problem is what then happens that doesn't make news. School board members being ousted, principals being suspended, teachers being cowed into silence. Those don't end up as viral videos, but that's the goal of this movement, and I'm sure that it is happening. I mean, we're showing you an example right now. How many people will lose their jobs? Because there's no counterforce to this. There's the right, which is sending huge sums of money to groups to get parents to go to these things. And then what? Some beleaguered PTA members who are supposed to stand against this national movement? There's no left equivalent to this. There's no centrist backing up of school districts. They're gonna be steamrolled all over the country.
With this ploy of, we're looking out for our children. Again, this guy was gonna be, as he mentioned in his statement, the first black principal in this school's 25-year history. I wonder where the problem came in.
I wonder. Anyway, we got one more story we're gonna turn to in just a couple minutes. I did wanna let you know the results of the poll are in. Will the Republicans impeach Biden following the 2022 election? Well, fairly clear victory. Over 75% of you think yes, they will impeach him. Now, we should have been a little bit more clear. Will they successfully impeach him or will they try? But I think we know that if they try to, they can do it. And they're almost certainly going to.
I don't think they will.
We don't know exactly what's that? You don't think they will?
I'm in the 25% minority. I don't think they will. They're gonna keep discussing it and trying and hinting and insinuating. They're worried. There's some splinters within the party about how to approach that, and they don't know how to coordinate it well enough. Because similarly, earlier we talked about Kevin McCarthy and Marjorie Taylor Greene saying the same thing about shutting down telecommunication companies. The establishment section of the party wants to use the Marjorie Taylor Greenes and Gateses of the world to promote the idiots, but they don't want to sound just like them. They still want to seem a little bit above the fray. The fact that they're pushing impeachment so hard, the crazies, they don't want to sound just like the crazies. They want to use the crazies to then get these things done. And if they sound just like them, they're gonna peel back.
We should bet. You know, I like when we disagree. We've been talking about bringing a version of the TYT Supreme Court to TDR. I think maybe we'll make it a Wednesday thing, so Jayar could be on.
Oh yeah, totally. No, because by the way, they're testing the waters here. They're gonna mention it and see if enough people go, yeah, do it. And if they will, but they want to see first.
Okay, I'm gonna read a couple quick messages before we jump into our last story. Tyler Hackner says these Congress members are so guilty. I don't even know of what, but yeah, yes, they are. Elisa Burdick says, I worked as an election inspector in Milwaukee. We hand counted ballots at polls at the end of the night and sometimes had to stay until 10 to 11 PM to verify for our chiefs. Thank you for your work. I'm sorry that you're demonized. Ferret Queen says, hubby and I spent the last week with a breakthrough case of COVID. We both had J&J, but our anti-vax friend came over and spread it. My fever got up to 103.6, but hospital was too crowded to go. Better now, thankfully. Jesus, Ferret Queen, I'm sorry about that. And also, I stand with you. I'm J&J as well. Anyway. Yeah. Okay. Andrea says it's very evident that if some had their way, not only would I not be allowed to be with my husband, I wouldn't be allowed to even exist as my mom's white and my dad's black. Yeah. Again, we were just thank you for your super chat, Andrea. We're just talking about this, like how like Afghanistan just won't catch up with modern thought. We won't, man. We won't. We're not modern. We're medieval. We just fired a principal because he dared to marry someone.
We're overturning women's rights. You know, one of the things they complain about is Afghani women who are having to deal with all of the things the Taliban are gonna put in place to reverse their rights. That sounds familiar.
Okay, let's have a bit of levity. This is a funny one. I like this. We're gonna move into this story now. Hawaii is trying very hard to stop people from bringing COVID to the islands. And so you need to submit proof of vaccination. Well, a woman has been found violating it. And wait until you find out how they discovered that she was lying. She's a 24-year-old woman arrested and charged on suspicion of falsified vaccination documents. The Department of the Attorney General said she submitted a fake COVID vaccination card in order to avoid Hawaii's mandatory 10-day quarantine. So how did they discover this? Because we're gonna bring it up and it might at first look kind of legitimate. And we know that people are selling these. We're gonna give you information on that in a bit. Well, the issue was, and let's bring up this photo, that when she had to list which vaccine she'd gotten, she said the Moderna, but she said the Moderna, and that's not a vaccine. You just heard someone say that once. You never Googled it, did you? Come on, Chloe. That's not what it is. I took the J and A. I got the J and I got the A. First dose J, second dose A. I think that's what I got. I got the fixer. I got the vaccine fixer. It's in me. I'm all fixed now. I think that's why they call it that.
I got the FATSer, PH.
It was a really big syringe. It was one of those Pfizers, you know? No, but seriously, Chloe Mrazak was arrested at the airport, faces a maximum sentence of a year in prison, and is reportedly being held on $2,000 bail. By the way, like she could have gotten in without the vaccine, but you do have to quarantine for 10 days so that you're not spreading it on this like tight, like it's just a small community of people that don't want COVID. And by the way, they've done a pretty good job throughout the pandemic. It's a little bit easier because they're an island, but they do have to be careful with the airplanes. But now they've moved from about 30 cases a day up to 553. So almost 20 times as much COVID. And so they are trying to be very careful about who is coming in. And having people who are willing to lie about their vaccination is just so callous, so selfish, so that you can go to the beach. You're gonna risk potentially getting someone sick or killing them.
Yep.
Anyway, any thoughts?
No, it's pretty obvious. It's just what it is. Nobody really cares about anyone else. They detach themselves from society and reality to make sure they can go on an island vacation. If nothing else, respect the laws of where you're going. What about the Law and Order Party? I'm not sure what her affiliation is, but the thought process of just I can do whatever the hell I want and move in through this because they have a rule put in place. If you want to go, follow the rules, bro. It's simple. It's straightforward. I don't see where you can die on that hill from and feel like you're the legitimate person.
Or you could just get the vaccine. There's a lot of different options. Like, and by the way, maybe like you don't want to go to like a doctor technically, but you can go like Captain Cornball went to, I'm assuming a psychic to get the AstraZeneca vaccine. That one's it makes you think about Aquarius, and cancer and stuff like that. But anyway, so I don't know if she made this herself or if she got it bought. We do know that people are selling these. A New Jersey woman who used the Instagram handle anti-vax mama, so that was sort of a tip off, was charged in a conspiracy to sell hundreds of fake coronavirus vaccination cards over Instagram. Manhattan prosecutors said that yesterday. She sold about 250. How much? She charged $200 for them. For 250 more, she would enter a customer's name in New York's official immunization database.
Yeah. So how many other people are maybe doing this that we don't hear about yet? You know, the other people on Instagram who are named free fake vaccine cards here as their title names on their handles on Instagram. I don't know. Maybe it's hard for them to track these folks down. It doesn't seem like it should be that hard, but you know.
Well, when they're advertising on Instagram. And by the way, Instagram supposedly is taking misinformation seriously for like a year. Yeah, good luck with that. And so she's doing this to get like $200. Like how many people are gonna get sick? We just had the audience member who the anti-vaxxer exposed them and both of them got like horribly ill. Like how many people will die so that you can make a couple $100? Pathetic country. Anyway, Jayar, unfortunately, we're also out of time. But as always, thank you for being here. It would not be Big News Wednesday without you.
I mean, the time flew by, as you said. It's too much fun to be had. I guess we'll wait until next time. I'm gonna make sure that my boy, by the way, his name is not Malcolm. I misnamed him earlier. His name is actually Barry, my friend Barry. He's relaxing. He's relaxing right now. But we'll get him going later.
It takes a lot of energy to dance those sweet moves. Anyway, have a happy inflatable arm flailing day, Jayar.
It's gonna be wonderful. We'll see you later on TYT, right, bro?
Yep, I'm gonna be joining Anna Kasparian for the second hour of the Young Turks. So everyone stay tuned for that. But before that, we have indisputable Dr. Rashad Ritchie, Cenk Uygur. You're not gonna wanna miss it. But until next time, stay safe out there, stay sane out there. I'll see you soon.
Yep, it's indisputable. I'm your host, Rashad Richard. Good to be with you. We got a lot on the agenda today. Ladies and gentlemen, breaking down news of the day with me, none other than my brother from another mother. Jank will be with me, breaking it down all day. Now, bullpen segment, going to be interesting because I actually agree with this guy on some stuff. Looking at his social media feed, not a whole lot of stuff though. All right, so that should be a great bullpen debate. Top story of the day. Ladies and gentlemen, middle-aged white male wanted. He has multiple warrants for his arrest. Yes, we're talking about the angry white man who is in the viral video accosting a correspondent for NBC News. You all have seen this video. Let's go back to it as a reminder.
They did get some reports of some down power lines, of some trees that have fallen, or at least limbs that have fallen. So they're going to go ahead and do that survey to make sure that they're okay. Craig, I'm going to toss it back because we have a person who needs a little help right now.
Hey. We're going to check in with Shaquille Brewster just to make sure all is well. There's a lot of crazy out there, a lot of crazy. And Bill Cairns, thank you as well. Again, we'll make sure Shaq's okay.
Yeah, there's a lot of criminal too out there. There are a whole lot of thugs like this guy out there, middle-aged white men who commit acts of criminality, walking in their privilege to do so. This guy was literally driving through Mississippi, and he decided to get out of his truck, commit a crime on camera, knowing he was being recorded. You have to ask the question, are they now doing these things in order to be recorded? Because literally, there's a section of society who will continue to celebrate individuals like him. Okay, who is he? His name is Benjamin Eugene Dagley. Police have issued an arrest warrant for the angry white man seen in the viral video, aggressively confronting NBC correspondent Shaquille Brewster during coverage of Hurricane Ida in Mississippi on Monday. Now remember, Shaq Brewster is literally putting his life in danger in order to give life-saving information to other people. That's what he's doing. In the statement, the Gulfport police said Mr. Dagley, the criminal here, has left the Mississippi Gulf Coast and is on the run in a white Ford pickup truck. That was visible in the video of the incident. This guy faces 2 counts of simple assault, 1 count of disturbing the peace, and 1 count of violating an emergency curfew. Now get this, and this is why I said yesterday, you can't play with people like this. You don't know what this individual is capable of, and if another person other than Mr. Brewster would have been there, he may have caught them hands. That's called self-defense, okay? Self-defense. Now, this guy is also suspected of violating his parole, which reportedly stems, get this, from charges that he once nearly caused an environmental disaster by drilling holes in tanks containing dangerous chemicals in Ohio. According to police, his parole includes travel restrictions. According to Cleveland.com, this same individual was involved in a financial dispute with an electroplating company when he broke into the facility in 2019 and drilled holes in tanks containing sodium cyanide, hydrochloric acid, yellow chromate, ferrous chloride, and sulfuric acid. Damn. You heard all that, right? Now, literally, we just covered yesterday a woman, or day before yesterday, a woman who was charged with using a weapon of mass destruction because she put her saliva on food. It gets deeper. The incident sent a security guard to the hospital with cyanide poisoning. An employee said the released chemicals were severe enough to cause large-scale catastrophe, and the gentleman knew exactly what he was doing. Whoa. He's on the run. Can somebody identify him? Let the authorities in Gulfport know exactly where he's at. We need to get this criminal off the street. Jake, what are your thoughts here?
All right, we'll start out light and get real serious. So first of all, white Ford pickup truck. I wish he at least did the slow speed chase so we can catch him. Right. Some people did it right. Okay. So number two, what happened to just comply with police orders? You remember whenever black folks ask for name, ID of police, or just ask for their rights, people say, well, just comply with the police. Just shut up and comply. This guy's on the run, okay? Yep. Doesn't look like he's complying. So I assume all the right wingers out there are gonna be like, go get that son of a bitch. Do whatever you have to do, shoot him in the back if you have to. I mean, that's what they say about black folks, right? So now, if that wasn't serious enough, now let's get to the heart of it, right? So when I was a kid, I grew up in a nice town, suburb, and it seemed to me at least that we didn't have too much discrimination. We had lots of different races, colors, etc., backgrounds, and I'm sure that I didn't see it right. I was a kid, right? But I thought, well, hey, it looks pretty good, right? And then when I grew up and I became a man, I put childish things aside and I realized, oh no, there's massive racism in this country. And you can see the discrimination in different forms, right? But the thing that I still missed until much later was it's not just that they discriminate against people of color, women, etc. And you're seeing that down in Texas and all over the country. It's that proactive white privilege that's amazing. So, and there's a picture perfect case of it. Cyanide poisoning. Now, think for a second, pause. What if it was a Muslim man who decided that he was gonna do a cyanide poison attack? Do you think he'd be out on parole? No, everybody knows it. And again, even if you're a right winger, you know it.
Right.
You know that a Muslim man in America who did a cyanide poison attack is not going to be out at all. He's gonna get 20 to 30, if not life. But there is this, Rashad, I'm amazed by it. There's this, really, they're almost above the law. I remember the Bill Murray's character in Kingpin, he wins $1 million and starts screaming, I'm above the law. But if you're a white and a right winger in America, you don't need $1 million. It turns out you've always been above the law.
Yeah, and it's the narrative, right? The narrative benefits the individual who may not fit the bill, so to speak, right? And what you're talking about is narrative, and narratives have so much power in how we understand the society around us. So naturally, a Muslim person or somebody with an Islamic background, they would never be on parole for such a crime, right? Thank God the people who were victims are able to talk about it. But this individual, he's not rehabbed. He didn't learn a lesson. He didn't make a mistake, acknowledged it, and transformed from his ways. He's literally looking for fights, looking for opportunities to engage people criminally. All right, we got more. School board stuff. This particular person says that this is actually the work of demons. Here it is.
My name is Melissa. I have 2 daughters in the school system. These are demonic entities, and we need to stick together. Remember, we have authority in Christ Jesus. These are demonic entities in all the school boards of all the United States of America, and all of us Christians will be sticking together to take them all out. All the police officers that kick us out for our First Amendment right will also be going down with them. Do you understand? I'm a nurse, infectious disease, 13 years. Masks don't work. These doctors that sit up here that were sneering at us and looking at us like we're scumbags, they need to go back to medical school.
Ma'am, you're out of order. Please. This is your last warning.
Turn my mic on.
Communications.
They need to remember, natural immunity is best. You are all demonic entities. You are going to be taken down.
Me, the You've already had your first warning, and this is your last. She cannot speak anymore.
Okay, all right, I feel like I have to clear this up. She believes in white Jesus, I do not, okay? Individuals like this make me feel embarrassed to tell people that I have a Christian faith background. Her and I do not believe the same. Now let's go to some of her commentary. She says masks do not work, contrary to every piece of scientific evidence known to man. Even if worn improperly, damn it works 40 to 60%. Worn properly, it works 90%. Masks do work. It decreases the spread of COVID-19. Settled science based on actual research surveyed by those who are inside of the medical profession. Oh, she says she is inside of the medical profession as a nurse. People that make comments like this, and let me tell you why I'm so hardcore about it. People that make public comments like this should have their license in the healthcare industry reviewed and revoked. And let me tell you why. If you are a licensed individual in a plethora of professions, if you engage the public in a certain way, you can be questioned. I'm talking about your actual credentials can be questioned. This person says she's a nurse. Now, we have not been able to independently verify that. Her name is Melissa. Let's put up a still of Melissa. There she is. Okay, that's Melissa. There's another parent, and remember, this is in that same school system where all the fights happened, Lee County, Florida. There's another parent who also shared thoughts at this very same meeting, along with Melissa, parent Brian Biggs, and he made sure we knew it was BIGGS, okay? Also expressed his disdain for the possible mask mandates while wearing a shirt that said, resist, defy, do not comply. Biggs said that child sex trafficking will increase if kids are forced to wear masks in school. Here he is.
How you doing? My name is Brian Biggs. Biggs, B-I-G-G-S, not Briggs. I want to talk about the real pandemic, child sex trafficking. By putting masks on these kids' face, you can't identify any of them. So by the 9 of you already voting on this, tells me you guys support sex trafficking.
Hey, sir, you're out of order.
Good.
I think he needs to immediately be placed under investigation. I really believe that. Okay, where is this coming from? Despite the opposition, the superintendent of the Lee County school system, his name is Ken Savage, opted to implement a 30-day mask mandate for all students and staff starting Wednesday, in a move supported by the Lee County board. And just remember, excuse me, all of these parents who are ready to go to war with school board members and school teachers, all of these individuals are already in compliance with various vaccine mandates. In order to go to any public school in America, you must have a certain vaccine background. And you have to present what vaccines you have in order to gain entry to that institution. I'm a former high school teacher, including teachers. Everybody has to get your tetanus, your polio, chickenpox, and a few others. And you have to present proof that you got them. If you work in the public school system, that's your passport, right? My point is, those have always been here. They have no problem with that. But they have a problem with non-chemical, non-intrusive mask mandates. That's what they have a problem with. Jank, the hypocrisy is unreal, brother. What are your thoughts here?
Well, first of all, my first question is there a job you haven't had? Okay, but now on to serious stuff. To your point about masks, look, there's tons of studies, etc. So you don't need this anecdote, but I'm gonna give it to you anyway because people sometimes can relate better to it. It turns out the girl sitting next to my daughter in elementary school had coronavirus, so they had to send my daughter back to our house a couple of weeks ago, right as school started, and it was a little scary. And there were 6 girls that were sitting at the table, and they all got sent home for about 2 weeks. And they were all wearing masks. None of them got coronavirus because the girl who had COVID was wearing a mask, and everybody else at the table was wearing a mask. If they weren't wearing masks, there's another story out of Florida, of course, where the teacher refused to wear a mask, was unvaccinated, and the first 2 rows in the class all got COVID because he's breathing on him. And so and if she's a registered nurse, which I guess she is, although you know, can you trust anything these people say? But if she is, they walk among us. You don't know who's unvaccinated and who's crazy and who believes she looks like a totally normal person. They all look normal, right? You know, you can't tell. But there's zombies in the head. I mean, look, we'll get to the craziest, even crazier stuff in a second. But the natural immunity, she says, oh, natural immunity is best. Well, first of all, that's not exactly right. But even if that were right, yes, but remember, a lot of people don't make it to natural immunity. You know why? Because they die first.
That's right.
So we've had over 600,000 people die while trying to get natural immunity, or of course, most of them didn't have a choice in the beginning. And so they have no logic at all. It's a logic-free zone. And then the sense of entitlement is overbearing. So she says, how dare you call us scumbags? But earlier she'd called them demonic and said that they were gonna get taken down. So I have a right to threaten violence on you. I have a right to say you're a demon. Like, I mean, I'm not a religious person, but I assume that's pretty bad.
Yeah.
But I'm not allowed to even criticize you for being a lunatic. So, because why? I got privilege. I got right-wing privilege. I can say anything I want about you. I can kick you in the ribs. I can kick you in the face. I can give you deadly diseases. But if you say one unkind word about me, I'm gonna cry for hours and hours. And I'm gonna look for police. I'm gonna look for power and authority to say, oh, do something about that person. They hurt my feelings. You're trying to give us deadly diseases. So you'll excuse me if I don't give a damn about your feelings.
Very well said. I remember.
I don't know what to do with the demonic stuff.
Listen, man, that's her projecting, man. The only demon I saw there was her, brother. Because a demon or the devil is your adversary in the Koine Greek. That's what it means. And the only adversary I saw there to life and to progress was that supposed nurse. All right, we got more on the other side. Stick and stay, it's indisputable.
I'm back to gaslighting. Did you and I talk about gaslighting on Old School?
Probably.
That boss gaslit all his female employees. People who manipulate others like that make you feel like you're the weirdo. Why won't you punch yourself in the face? What is wrong with you? And you're like, oh my God, I feel so bad. Why didn't I just punch myself in the face and poke my eye out? I'm 47 and I just figured it out like earlier this year.
You figured out somebody was doing it to you or that you were
that it was that it would have been happening my whole life and I didn't realize it.
Right.
Welcome to Indisputable. I'm your host, Dr. Rashad Richey. We got a lot happening today. And what do we do on this show? We tell the truth. You know why we tell the truth? Because the truth is simply indisputable.
Rashad, great to be here. Congratulations on the new show. And I gotta let everybody know that Rashad and I go way back.
Here's the pattern that we see in all of these Karen stories. They think they own stuff they do not own. Now, where does that come from? I don't know, maybe slavery. Maybe they think they should still own black people.
This is what happens when Karens weaponize the police.
When you're used to privilege, equality seems like oppression.
It hits you in a certain way when someone is holding you against your will, treating you like you're a criminal and you're an innocent person. This is something that black people face no matter where they are.
A stronger black economy lends itself to a stronger, greater economy. Don't think it's exclusive of you, it's inclusive of you.
What's your beef with critical race theory?
It adds more fuel to the fire of the racist tendencies that we already have.
We have a generation of problem solvers that can remedy the problem if they are properly taught what the problem is.
You know who created redlining in this country? It was a white liberal.
I don't give a damn who created it. If it's a racist policy, Shelley, here's what I don't know. I don't know. See, there you go filibustering, brother. You're scared of this truth, but you're gonna get it though.
I've been a fan of TYT, I believe, for the last 6 years.
5 years.
3 years now. 7 years.
4 years now.
2.5 years. I just started because she got me into it.
My boyfriend actually watches it every morning and every night, so I kind of just started watching it with him, and I love it. I mean, it's the only way that I find my news.
Looking through YouTube, looking for political shows that look cool.
I came across a very angry rant from Cenk, and that's when I knew.
So I was immediately in love with the show.
And then I haven't missed a live show since then.
10 times a day, I watched the show in the morning.
Whenever I had a bad day at high school, Young Turks.
Man, Cenk is just so blunt and honest, and I love the honesty, and there's no BS behind the news, and they just tell everything like it is.
There's nobody censoring them. There's nobody there to say, you can't do this, you can't say that.
That feel of authenticity makes it seem like what they're saying is true.
I feel like I get the real story from the Young Turks.
I am TYT.
I am TYT.
I am TYT. I am TYT.
I am TYT.
I am TYT.
Welcome to the Damage Report. I'm John Iadarola. This is gonna be a big one. Meanwhile, in the Arctic, you know where this is going. You watch the Damage Report, the Arctic's on fire. Obviously, why would we be talking about the Arctic except to tell you that it's melting once again? The Republicans aren't that interested in it. I wonder why. Lift out of poverty up to 3.7 million people, including an estimated 1.3 million children. Hashtag save the children? Not if it costs money. I mean, come on.
Yep, welcome back. Good to have you here. Thank you for joining the conversation. We got a lot of viewer comment. Let's get to it. Before that, don't forget to watch the conversation today live, 5:30 Eastern time. That's 2:30 Pacific time. Also, tyt.com/live. That's right before the Young Turks. My big sister, Adrienne Lawrence, okay, hosting. You do not want to miss that. Make sure to subscribe and watch all interviews. All of them. YouTube.com/TYT conversation. All right, make that happen. We got a lot of viewer comments. TYT member Mickey C, the silver hair dragon says, "Oh my God, Dr. Richey and Cenk bracing for impact." LOL. Impact is here. Next TYT reporter. The news will be blowing up with terrorist attacks, chemical plant today. Exactly. That would be the headline. Not what he did to the reporter, but what he did to that plant or whatever it was he worked at, right? Elected miscellanea. I think that there's a lot of crazy out there, in quotes. Will be a great title for a book documenting the insane, hateful things that Karens are doing around the country. Unfortunately, it would have to either be an extremely long book or maybe come out with a new volume each year. I mean, maybe I need to start a book of the Karens of the world that we cover. I mean, that book will basically read and sell itself. All right, cognitive dissonance is a hell of a drug. I imagine the rallying cry for the crusade sounded a lot like this nurse's speech. We have authority in Jesus in 21st century America. Really? Yeah, I actually have a research paper out called The Global Effect of Western Religion on Politics, Policy, and Government. You can find that, Google the titles on Google Scholars. But I show that Christianity has actually started more wars than it ever stopped, okay? YouTube, super chat. Non-human humanist. Vaccines will work best if all who can be are vaccinated. I am worried about the children and people who can't be vaccinated for medical reasons. And that's why we have to work out protocols, right? That's why mask mandates are important too. Peter Hamby, Manstorm's reporter. Now cops want to rein him in. Cowards fears red lights. Haiku to the head, Turk, and the Richie Doc.
It's Peter with his haikus, love it.
I love the haikus, yes. Feral Dragon, she's not an RN. She couldn't pass the test. All right, I can't confirm this. We're just reading what the comment is. She's not an RN, she couldn't pass the test. She's an LVN, one step above CNA, and hasn't been employed for a few years. BFF worked with her, Crazy was fired. That's interesting. Richard wrote for Congress. I know Melissa personally. I went to school with her. She's not a nurse anymore because she got busted doing something she wasn't supposed to do. Let me put it that way. That's what Richard says. All right, Moon Dragon. She sees demons everywhere. Worst acid trip ever. Moon Dragon. That's actually the best acid trip, not worse. Okay, Tyler Heckner. I can't believe I live in the same country as these people. Believe it. Thank you, Trisha Briggs, for that shout out to me and you, my dear brother. Thank you all. Hello from Spain, Dr. Richie, says Khalid. Thank you so much for that. Twitch, Jank with the call back, nice. Multi-ball, oh yes, I remember the demonic entities unit in med school. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this has got to stop, damn it. People are taking advantage of all of this anti-vax sentiment in the world. There's a New Jersey woman under the Instagram handle anti-vax mama. No, I kid you not. This woman has been charged by the Manhattan DA for selling fake COVID-19 vaccination cards. Now, we told you this would end up happening. We said it right here. She sold about 250 fake cards to New York healthcare workers. Let me say that again. 250 fake cards to New York healthcare workers, with a co-conspirator entering those people into the state vaccination registration database. You're talking about a sophisticated operation here. Now, we covered a medical doctor. He was just giving anti-mask excuses. He was charging $50 a pop, but these people have a whole operation of corruption and criminality, and a lot of healthcare workers are engaged with it. According to NBC New York, the Manhattan District Attorney's Office charged Jasmine Clifford, 31, of Lyndhurst, New Jersey, with selling the fake cards, and the Deja Barkley, 27, of Bellport, New York, with entering at least 10 of the buyers into the state's centralized database, which powers the state's Excelsior Pass, while working at the Pashag Medical Clinic. Okay, let's put a picture of Miss Clifford up. Styling. That's Miss Clifford, a New York State Police investigator who became aware of the scam a few weeks ago, tested it by contacting Clifford to order a fake card and to be added to the state vaccine database, prosecutors said. In July, the investigator said in court papers, he received a package containing a CDC COVID-19 vaccination card marked with the name and date of birth he provided and a cell phone screenshot showing that the information he provided had also been added to the state database. Quite interesting. Once again, sophisticated scheme. The DA's office also charged 13 people with buying the fake cards from Clifford via her anti-vax mama account. Among them, hospital and nursing home workers. Let me pause there for a minute. And let me just say clearly why this is so problematic. When you go to a hospital, when you check your loved one into a nursing home, you sign an agreement. That agreement works both ways. They tell you some things about their workers and the responsibility of their workers, and you tell them some things about your responsibility to them, okay? It's a contract. And you expect to be safe, and you expect your loved one to be safe. You do not expect someone who says, yes, I have been vaccinated, to go and get a damn fake vaccination card. Now I get it, Ms. Clifford, what she did was criminal. She has been charged. What these individuals in the healthcare field did, that was criminal and egregious, okay? These are people that literally took an oath. I don't know what oath Ms. Jasmine Clifford took, but I know the people in the healthcare industry, they have a policy and protocol. They promised us some things. They are responsible to us. I don't know, Ms. Clifford. All right, the Facebook said it prohibits this kind of activity, blah, blah, blah. It always says that. It said that they deactivated the account early August for breaking the rules. According to the New York Times, there was a warrant out for Ms. Clifford's arrest, but she did not appear in the courtroom on Tuesday. She is expected to be charged with 2 felonies related to the scheme, in addition to the conspiracy charge, which by the way is a misdemeanor. Let's go to the video.
She posted this the other day explaining that she has a backlog of messages and also that she's looking to expand her team. So if you have computer access at hospitals or CVS, DM me ASAP. I told her I work at a Walgreens. She said to text her ASAP. She asked if I had access to enter the vaccine information into the system, and then asked, because I'm in Florida, how do people verify here that they're in the system? Because in New York, they have an app. I explained in Florida we have a site you can do that on, and asked what exactly she needed. She told me she provides the person's name, date of birth, address, the vaccination date, asked if I can backdate them, and then has me enter them into the system to generate lot numbers. She told me the woman in New York that's doing it for her, she's given $100 a person. She's doing at least 30 people a day, and that woman's making $10,000 a week. Now you may ask, why would someone take the risk and do something like this? Well, it seems in her case, it's at least due in part to the fact that she believes that the vaccines are sterilizing children as part of the gay agenda.
Okay, that's just silly as hell, but I really don't give a damn what she believes. She's putting other people in danger. And these healthcare workers are doing the exact same thing. Amazing. Looks like her #1 client were people who are supposed to protect us, right? Cenk, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, 2 things here. First, I'm always stunned by people's lack of empathy towards others.
Yeah.
Really, you're gonna go into a nursing home with a fake vaccine card and purposely put those elderly folks' lives in danger. And why? Well, I feel like all the doctors in the world are part of a global conspiracy. And I don't like that feeling. And my feelings matter more than the lives of all these people. Or you're a nurse or you're a doctor and you're gonna fake it and you're gonna go into a hospital and endanger people's lives because of your feelings. Their entitlement, their arrogance is, and their danger cannot be understated. So cannot be overstated. So the second thing is, honestly, Rashad, the story didn't surprise me, and people's greed is infinite, and it's ruining the planet. But what surprised me was the felony charges. And I read a couple of articles and I was shaking my head because I know right-wing privilege, and most of the folks that are anti-vaccine are right-wingers. And I'm like, felony charges, that seems unusual. They almost never get subjected to the law like the rest of us. And so then I actually Google searched the woman involved in the story because I noticed the names and I thought, oh, wait a minute. And then when I saw the image, I was like, oh, of course she's black.
Yep.
That explains the felony charge, right?
Yeah.
Like,
and remember,
there's no end to it. There's no end to it.
You got a medical doctor writing these fake anti-mask excuses, right? Advertising it on multiple social media sites in violation of all protocol and law. Not charged with a felony. Not charged with a felony. As a matter of fact, they had to go through a process to remove the person from the medical clinic just to get rid of them as a doctor at that facility. So you make a very compelling point.
Yeah,
all right,
Rashad,
go ahead.
I just want to say one quick thing. I just want to clarify to people. She should be charged with a felony.
Yeah.
But so should the other people that are actually doing the fraud, right? Or they should all be charged, and it shouldn't be based on their race or political orientation.
That's right. It's based on the impact to the larger society, and this has a hell of an impact. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I usually would tell all young people, respect adults, but I'm going to have to give this young man a pass. I wish a Karen would.
You want to call the police on him for having a barbecue on a Sunday.
You're still free. Back off! I'm going to tell them there's an African-American man threatening my life.
I ain't got a lease to stay here.
A lease agreement.
I don't have a lease agreement.
I don't know, do you?
Exactly. You don't know. So mind your business, bitch. Go sit down.
I told you, it's in your lease agreement. You can't ride a skateboard.
Well, guess what I'ma do? I'ma step on this bitch and I'ma ride that.
I know. She said he needed a lease. He started recording. He responded to her the way he responded. This particular Karen, once again, follows suit with all of those who have Karenicity, which is, I need to regulate this other person, put them in their place. But this was a TikToker and music producer named Memphis Blue. And Memphis Blue simply was not having it. Let's put up a picture of old Memphis Blue. A lot of people know the guy. Here's the Karen who said he needed a lease to be there. We have a picture of the Karen? Okay, we'll have one in post. I had mixed feelings when I saw this, right? But then I said, well, she asked for it. If you walk up to a random black person and demand they show you documentation for their existence, what do you expect? Respect to you? You weren't respectful to them. You want them to be courteous to you? You weren't courteous to him. Jack, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I got tons of mixed feelings about this because I'm a grumpy old man, and sometimes skaters, like this one time skater jumped right in front of my car, and then like looks back at me like, "Hey, what are you doing?" I was driving on the road when you jumped in front of me and nearly killed yourself, right? So I say that stuff, and the skaters get at me online and stuff. So I get it. On the other hand, no, you don't need a lease. And what are you asking people for a lease? And if he skated over her toes, then we're having a different conversation,
sure,
right?
Exactly.
Right. And so, and guys, of course, the real issue here is, and I've lived this my whole life because I'm kind of race neutral. It depends on what I'm wearing. If I'm wearing rundown clothes and I'm in a rundown car, which has been my most of my life, cops will treat me differently. If I'm wearing a nice jacket and I can walk into any restaurant or any hotel and nobody's gonna ask me for a lease. Okay, so I've seen both worlds, and here, if the guy, look, it's weird to think of a skater in a suit. But did it partly depend on the fact that he was young and he was those other factors, etc., as to why she went at him? And then I thought at the end, though, yeah, of course he was rude back. There's no question. But why do they only get to be rude to us? So, yeah,
it is what it is. I have a philosophy, man. I don't always take the high road, brother. Sometimes I take the road that the other person came traveling in on. we're gonna be on the same road together. That's my philosophy on some stuff. Okay, all right, we got more on the other side. Stick and stay is indisputable.
I'll predict right here for you, Chris. I think Donald Trump will leave office before his term is up. He'll be humiliated, embarrassed, and I know him. He's not gonna wanna lose, and he's gonna run for the hills.
You got that bet all day long.
Okay, let's get after it. Now, so look, Jake has made some good predictions, and this is in good fun. I could not disagree more.
There's a little bromance between the two of them. You got that bet all day long, Janky, you. Oh, you stop. In the meantime, let's call him out on the damage.
No, but
I just got a Roku set. Did basically a little bit of channel surfing, and I was like, there we are.
Yeah.
There we are. And then I turned it on, and it was John and Brett on Damage Report making fun of me.
Oh no.
So you are so busted. I even took a picture of it, okay? And they're talking about my predictions. I got a new prediction for you, John Iadarola.
You're doing a show that's blowing the doors off everybody.
Young Turks is the largest online news network, not a big deal. We're gonna rock the boat. We're gonna be counter-establishment. We're gonna tell people the truth to the best of our abilities. We're so sick of this corruption. We're not the robots on TV. I actually care about the news. Guilty, I care. Fourth day on Occupy Wall Street. Last night we launched Wolfpack. It's us pushing our ideas out there, trying to help the country in every way that we can, trying to make this place just a little bit better. Reporting from the Hillary-Bernie debate, I gotta be honest, you know what we do, we cover it for real. For us, this system isn't working. Free and fair elections.
And when he told the cops that day, when they came to drag her away, and he said, if you're gonna chain her, you're gonna chain me. If you're gonna arrest her, you're gonna arrest me.
Hi, I'm Bartholomew Joseph Kyle. I do audio for the main show, The Young Turks. I also do audio for Post Game. I started in 2006. I met Cenk Uygur at the Iraq for Sale screening that was directed by Robert Greenwald. And watching that, I want to figure out a way to be part of something that's genuine and authentic.
Welcome back, it's indisputable, good to be with you. Let's go to some of these amazing comments. Okay, really, my co-host, Cenk, should be reading this, but I will try. This is from TYT member, my poet, Kelly O'Hara. She says, look at this lady in all of her whiteness, showing a total lack of politeness. She's all in his business without remorse. Is she a Karen? Well, yeah, of course.
Nicely done, Rashad. Nicely
all right,
done.
I tried. I'm the guy that has to read it, so I had to give it its thank you for saying that. And bars, by the way, Kelly, bars. Danielle LaBQ, hi, Dr. Richie. It is always great to see you. I was super happy to see we have Cenk on the show today. What a great day it is to have two of my favorite guys on my favorite show. Love you both, and as always, thanks for keeping me up to date on the truth. And Danielle, love you back, okay? Thank you for saying that. Biden flavor corn pop. And by the way, have we found corn pop? Is corn pop still alive?
Well, we need to find him because I know he's a bad dude.
Bad dude, bad cat, okay? Makes sense. These social media influencers smell money in that 40% anti-vaxxer bunch. YouTube super chat, Chris Lee Joseph Massey III. Oh my God, Cenk and Dr. Rashad together. Glad I called out sick today. Now I'm gonna get a double dose of this truth. Hashtag true duo. Thank you for that. We'll appreciate that. Don phrased EU. I know I slaughtered that. I apologize in advance. I like the way, I think you mean, I like the way you talk about politics. Thank you. Jill Wagner says, these videos of anti-maskers, congressmen and women talking about taking up arms, civil wars, and other rhetoric is serious and scary. Where's Merrick Garland? Yeah. Caravenus, thank you. May Money in the building says, I call it logging into wrongb.com. Karen got the password, logged in and got cursed out. Should have minded your business, lady. Sweet peas, skateboarder scratched an internal itch. Kev Z 247, thank you for that, Kev. Guillermo Gonzalez, forget being nice. Let's just be honest, and honestly, nobody has to waste their time hearing out of Karen. Twitch, Genocide 2002. What terrifies me about this is that she actually entered people into the database. Yeah, Dragon Penny. They are so desperate to infect others, they are willing to pay $250 for the privilege. Robert 1007, that kid was fantastic. Cheers to him. Blazer, so when do we do the contest on which audience member can do the best? I wish a Karen Wood intro. I love it. Well, listen, you're actually in luck, ladies and gentlemen, because today, double dose.
You want to call the police on them for having a barbecue on a Sunday.
You're still free! Back off! I'm going to tell them there's an African American man threatening my life.
I am in support of you.
My husband died July 4th of COVID. My daughter is back to school where she now feels unsafe because she has to wear a mask. When she just lost her dad July 4th. Now my daughter has the stress of losing her dad. Now she's back in school with the stress of having to wear a mask where she don't feel safe because they say the masks are not safe. The vaccines are not safe. Where are you?
Let me say this. I'm sorry that this young person father died, okay? That has nothing to do with the mask being worn. Now, the reason why I highlight this particular Karen, because I got some questions. Number one, why in the hell is she in the classroom? Number one, and engaging the teacher directly. I don't understand this, she should have been removed. No one is saying that the mask does not decrease. Let me start that over. No reasonable person is saying that the mask does not decrease the spread of COVID. Who's saying it? Unreasonable people. But unreasonable people say a lot of things. Unreasonable people say we're not actually on the planet, this is a simulation. Unreasonable people say that the earth is actually flat, okay? Unreasonable people say a lot of things and they believe it and they take it to heart and they're passionate about it and they believe in something. Well, that's on them. But this sentiment is not in a silo. There was a time when conspiracy theories actually existed in a minority of the population, and I mean a single-digit minority. I read a statistic today that said that damn near 70% of Republicans still believe the election was stolen from Donald Trump. There was a time when that kind of conspiracy, that theory with absolutely no evidence to back it up, would have been roughly 7% of the population or the Republican movement. Now it's the majority. And even things that are considered to be extreme conspiracies, like for example, the insurrectionists, January 6th. I think everyone watching me can agree that those were right-wing Trump supporters. According to the data I read this morning, 48% of Trump supporters, those who are Republicans, they actually believe it was a conspiracy of the left that attacked the Capitol. 48%. Jank, this is part of a larger problem as it relates to our relationship with fact and truth.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So she said they say masks are not safe. Who's they? And you know who they is. Randos on social media plus conservative media. And so it's amazing to me that folks will say, the vaccines are not tested enough. That's why I'm taking horse paste.
Right.
What? No, ivermectin is perfectly tested if you have tapeworm, but not if you have coronavirus. There's no testing on that. There was one fake study, and yet people do it. It's amazing. They'll believe a stranger online that they don't even know if it's a real person, but they won't believe all of the doctors in the world. How do you? And that leads to the hardest part, Rashad. How do you talk to people if you're not speaking the same language? We are speaking the language of facts, reason, and logic. And they're speaking the language of emotions and conspiracy and nonsense. So, I mean, for God's sake, her husband died from COVID. And now she's saying, well, that's why I don't want my daughter to wear a mask. Well, that's the exact opposite of logic. So I don't know how to communicate with you. How can you talk sense to someone who doesn't believe in sense?
Yeah, you can't. That's the whole thing. And it's called confirmation bias, where you start with your bias and all you seek is confirmation of that bias, no matter how it comes, no matter what form it comes in, and no matter if it's antithetical to fact, truth, logic, and science. Okay, this is a really, really weird scene. Young black male driving, not committing any criminal act, not suspected of even a traffic violation. He notices that a sheriff deputy is following him without turning on his lights. He pulls into a well-lit parking lot, and here's what happened.
I've been getting followed by this police officer. He hasn't put his lights on. The sheriff, I don't know what he's doing. I just pulled over at IGA, and he still haven't got out. I don't know what his problem is. I don't know. I'm gonna just see his, look, now he's trying to lie at me. I guess I have my hand in my pocket, but he's running my tags or something for some reason. So I don't know what's going on. Looks like he might have another sheriff on their way. I don't know. There's another one. For some reason, they're pulling up on me. They have to some type of interaction with me. There's no lights, so we have one here and one here. Hey, how
you doing, sir?
Is there any reason for this contact?
You're free to go.
Oh, okay. Can I get a name and badge number for both you guys?
Sure. I'm Deputy Vaughn.
Deputy Vaughn?
Yeah.
Okay, you got a badge number?
1126.
1126. What's your name and badge number?
Deputy Adam.
Deputy Adam?
Yep.
Okay.
1200.
1200. Yep. Okay. Is there a reason for any of this here?
My lights aren't on.
I know they're not on. I know. I know. I recognize that.
And you're not detained. You're free to go.
I know, but I'm wondering what is this?
You pulled in here at a public parking lot. You're free to go.
Okay, but I wonder what is going on. Why are you guys parked like this? Like, you're not in a parking spot. You're parked blocking here. I'm just wondering what's that?
You're absolutely right, sir.
Okay.
You're free to go. Thank you, though, so much. You're also free to stay.
Yeah, I know I'm free to stay. That's why I'm asking questions to see why are you parked in. You're confused. I'm confused why you're parked like that, and you're parked like that, and y'all both out of the vehicles. And told me I'm
out of the vehicle and started videotaping.
Yeah, because I'm wondering why you park like that. And I was going to ask you. You haven't ever turned on your lights or said anything, and then you get out. You said I'm not detained and I'm free to go and I'm free to stay. So I'm also free to ask questions. So I'm just wondering why are you guys?
Yeah. Deputy, I think we should probably go roadside with you up here. Thank you.
Yeah. So on some police cruisers, the actual lights will turn on the dash cam, okay? They followed this individual. He saw them following him, so he pulled over into a parking lot, thank God. Let me remind you of who these deputies are. We have not been able to identify yet, I'm sure that's coming soon, who they work for. We have limited information and would love your help in figuring out who they are. Deputy Bond, badge number 1126. Deputy Adam, badge number 1200. Here's what we know so far. This was originally posted on TikTok by Stink Ace 2. This video later reposted on Reddit in the public freakout, shredded caption, "The dangers of driving through an American sundown town," okay? As stated by the man recording, it occurred in the parking area of an IGA supermarket, okay? Somebody also noted that it looked like Washington, but we don't know for sure. We have no idea as of yet, all right? Would love your help in that. Jank, this is spooky as hell. I would have been really terrified if this happened to me.
Yeah, so a couple of things here. First, they get out and say, "Oh, you're free to go." Well, right back at you, brother. You're also free to go. Why are you guys surrounding me? Like, if I'm free to go and I'm free to stay and I didn't do anything wrong, then why are you guys here? Why don't you go solve crime or something? like they're acting as if like, what's the big deal? But no, you pulled up on me. I didn't pull up on you. Right. And then you called for backup, and then you guys got me in a pincer move here. It's a natural question, like, what's up?
And then they tried to flip it, like, I'm confused. One of the deputies literally said he's confused.
Yeah. Yeah, and so look, likely they followed him that first guy followed him into the parking lot, likely because he looked into the car, right? And then he probably looked up his plates and found out there's nothing wrong with the car. And then he saw him recording. He's like, "Oh, we gotta get out of here." Mm-hmm. Okay, now that's the good news though, Rashad, because they're now a little bit afraid of the cell phone cameras.
Yeah,
and that is great news. Because when we remember the days when they weren't afraid of the cell phone cameras, right? And now apparently enough cops have been fired for beating people up and killing them, etc. That when you got a camera, they're like, "Whoa, hey, you're free to go, free to stay." Yep. All of a sudden, so hey, I love that part of the story.
Yeah, and the reason why it's different, and you hit on it just now, is because it's used in prosecution of cops. If it wasn't, they would not give a damn, right? The tool is effective, it's like hand in glove. Not only because people are willing to record, but there are some prosecutors willing to hold them accountable. My brother, it is always a pleasure chopping it up with you, man. Thank you.
Oh, I loved it. And it gave me a chance to be indisputable. So
that's right, every time, brother. Thank you, my friend.
Shot at it.
All right, we got more on the other side. It's indisputable. Stick and stay.
You know, old school's pitched to me from Jank. It'll just be me, you, Jesus, Ben,
and maybe Michael. And we're like, okay, cool. I can do that every week. As you can see, me, Jesus, Ben.
When you make the order, it says, don't exceed $20.01. So I'll just order literally anything to get it as close to that as I possibly can.
I'm sorry that I ordered $45 worth of food and got an email saying, sir, would you like to rethink that? What are you talking about?
I was in hell. I was just like, oh my God, the theater's empty, nobody's here. Everyone on screen keeps f***ing cursing. Why did I let this happen? And the whole thing looks like it was shot through a glass of milk. My mom's gonna be so mad.
If you're looking for a heart attack, the short way, baby.
Wrong. I did put mayonnaise on it. I'm the most in shape, overweight person you'll find.
That's right.
He was like, why didn't you answer my call? I called you 39 times.
Yuck. But what makes you stop right before 40? What makes you say, nah, man, I ain't doing that no more. I'm cool.
And I called you back on the air. And I was like, okay, Kevin Smith, big shot. What the f***? You said you'd come on and you didn't come on.
I'm sure I took that very well.
Yeah, you did. You called me back the next day and said, I thought it was 7 a.m. And there's now deep fake porn. I don't know if you guys have heard of this.
I heard of it. I just had some in the car.
I'll tell you who I'm not f***ing, Ben Mankiewicz. Have you guys ever felt that?
Not ever.
And now it's just the three of us.
This is the intimate hour.
By the way, the last half hour of this, we're not even rolling.
Fair enough.
Kingsley.
See, I watch movies.
I'm done with both of you.
Once Greg starts laughing, I can't stop. And I was just gonna ask you about getting high.
Snoogans, Snoochie Boochies.
And members, of course, you can get the whole damn thing. TYT.com, join, and free trial.
I'm old school with the old folks.
Good.
John, come back.
Field goal here.
It's time to switch to beer.
Oh, man.
Oh, God.
Do your best.
He's a little like...
Oh. No one's happy now.
Give him another try.
Oh.
Wow. This is the weirdest game.
I'm Brett. I would like to refer to this segment as the Do I Still Have This Talent show. So I want to see if I can play harmonica without my hands. I don't know why I have that. Nothing's gonna be more impressive than that. I can also spin a basketball on my finger. While drinking. I'm gonna spin a basketball on my finger while drinking apple juice. You can do this, dude. It's also flat. I don't know if that helps or hurts. And it seems to be somewhat wobbly. Ta-da! Nope, I don't know how to do this one. This one's a fail. Nope. Oh God, I'm so mad.
All right, welcome back. We got a lot of comments. Don't forget to watch the conversation live today, 5:30 p.m. Eastern time. That's 2:30 p.m. Pacific time. TYT.com/live. That's before the Young Turks. Great show today, hosted by none other than Adrian Lawrence. And also make sure to subscribe and watch all interviews at youtube.com/TYT conversation. Okay, make that happen. TYT member Biden Flavor Corn Pop says, following us. Thank you for filming technology, Steve Jobs. Cray Cray Souffle. I always feel like somebody's watching me. Yeah. YouTube super chat. Ken Bernardo, thank you for that. Tyler Hackner. These people are so selfish and dangerous. Yeah. Ricardo Chucky. You're free to go. Never felt so menacing. I mean, it really did. It felt like, oh yeah. Go ahead and leave if you want to. That's what it felt like, right? King T, free to go, but they got him boxed in from front and back. These guys are crazy. Yeah. Sunshine Dragon, oh my God. So the cop turned the lights off? No lights, no cam? There you have it. No lights, no camera. That was the idea. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the bullpen. All right, in the bullpen today, we got Mark Meckler, President, Convention of States. He's practiced law for 2 decades, very accomplished individual. We're going to talk about the Convention of States. I actually agree with some of the methodology here, so I don't know if this will be as much of a debate as people think, but I do disagree on some of what they would like to add as amendments. Mark, welcome, how are you?
Hey, it's great to be with you. Love your story, man. Great story of redemption. So it's a real honor to be on your program.
Thank you, brother. I really appreciate you saying that. And it's an honor to have you on the show. Let's first get some background. I don't want to presume all that you know or believe about Article 5 of the Constitution, which is your convention article. But give some background to your sentiment about it and how you think it should be used in America.
Sure, Article 5 is in the Constitution. It contains the way that we can amend the Constitution. Of course, we have 27 amendments. Those have all been done by Congress proposing when 2/3 of either house proposes. Then they go out to the states for ratification by 3/4. What we're proposing is the second method, which is it's time for the states to act to rein in the federal government. That takes 2/3 of the states to request a convention. They then gather in convention when a majority of states propose amendments. Those go out to the states for ratification. So that's the general process and what we're trying to accomplish.
So let me make sure my numbers are right. It's, I think, 34 states to call the convention. It takes 38 states to ratify any amendments that oppose and add that to the actual US Constitution, right?
That's perfect.
Okay, I actually like the idea. Now, we've never used it, that's the problem. And so this is a very new concept. Let me tell you why I like the idea. I don't like all ideas, but I like the fact there is a methodology because of the gridlock that is in Washington. Now, that doesn't mean I like some of the things that you may want to propose on it. But before we get into the disagreement, let's talk about the agreement. Why do you think this has never been used, even though it is a directive article in the US Constitution? And when I say never been used, I'm not talking about everyday folks. I'm talking about people who are governors, people who are head of legislative bodies. They don't talk about this process in the US Constitution, even if they are proclaiming a platform antithetical to the federal government. Why is it that they don't bring this up?
Yeah, I think because it's really difficult and the founders intended for it to be really difficult. As a student of the Constitution, you know that the founders didn't want it to be easily amended. They wanted large, broad national consensus. And so to get 34 states to agree to get into convention is hard. To get 38 states to ratify anything, obviously even a higher bar. This is the highest bar in the American system of governance. So it's not easy. There've been over 400 applications for a convention. We've just never had 2/3 of the applications that match. That's required. It's a legal term called aggregation for the actual applications to match up so we can get to convention.
What's the highest number you all have been able to accomplish?
Well, the highest number in American history, as far as I'm aware, was 32. That goes back to the 1980s, and they were trying to get to a convention for just a balanced budget amendment. And then that started to get pushed back on their way back now. Our organization is now at 15 states that have passed this. We have another 8 states that have passed it in one house or another, and 49 states have introduced it.
What is your aim? Is it to deconstruct the federal government, defund the federal government, or a combination of both?
It's actually neither of the above. The aim is to go back to the intent of the founders regarding our structure, which is that the Constitution contains a limited set of enumerated powers that were granted to the federal government. The rest was supposed to remain with the people and the states. And unfortunately, over the past 115 years or so, the federal government's powers have expanded dramatically. And I think this is one of the reasons for so much contention in the United States. Whether we have a Democratic administration or a Republican administration, you have half the people in the country are very frustrated. And that's because the power base was always intended to be in the states and not at the federal government.
Explain this to me. So if the aim is not, if you get to this place without deconstructing the federal government, I don't get the methodology, because if you are successful, it will create a de facto deconstruction of the federal government because they won't have the same authority or power of oversight. And it will also defund the federal government because that taxation will no longer have a federal emphasis, it will have a local state emphasis. And so you are now defunding the federal government. Am I missing something?
I think you actually are missing something. So it depends, and we need to be careful about how we define terms. When you say deconstruct the federal government as constructed is laid out in the United States Constitution. It's very clear, and the courts have expanded that definition beyond the Constitution. So what we're trying to do is go back to something closer to the original Constitution. So I'd actually call that reconstructing the federal government, not deconstructing the federal government.
Okay, and it would take money away from the federal government because you now have this, very emphasized state protocol, correct?
Well, I think it could, but it's not necessary that it does. And this is an important point to note. There are no policy prescriptions in this. In other words, what we're just talking about is where is the authority. So it's not necessary for the federal government to give up money, and there's not a necessary transfer of money to the states from the federal government under our application. It's theoretically possible, but it's not necessary under the application.
Now, this takes me to my next question, because I'm glad I'm interviewing you, because this is one thing that always stood out to me, and I'm sure you can provide some clarity to this. When we talk about Article 5, how does Article 5 stand up to the co-equal branches of power? How does that now work when you have a much more, let's say, subdued federal government? Does it change that structure on any level at all? And does it increase or enhance the powers of independent states to pass laws contrary to the executive branch?
Well, I do think it changes the balance of power. And I think what it does is ideally, it takes the balance of power back to the states where it was intended to be. The branches were never intended to be co-equal. In fact, Congress was supposed to be intended to be the most powerful branch of the federal government. The founders thought the courts would be the weakest. They've ended up being the strongest. And we now have an executive, which Congress largely lets go unchecked. But in regard to the states versus the federal government, the states through Article 5 were always intended to be the final check on federal government power. Article 5, the second clause, was put in at the end of convention, September 15th, 1787. Colonel George Mason addresses the men assembled and said, "We've made a mistake. We've given the power to Congress to propose amendments, but we've not given it to the people and the states." And he asked this question: do we expect a federal government that becomes a tyranny to ever propose amendments to restrain its own tyranny? We know what they thought, because it was a unanimous vote without debate to give the states this ultimate power over the federal government. So that was clearly the intent of the founders.
So let me talk about the intent of the founders. I'm glad you brought that up, because I do find it interesting that on one argument, we will say that the founders were very appropriate and judicious, for lack of a better term, about how the structure of government should work. But they also made a bunch of mistakes. They also got some things wrong. And when we talk about the amendments that have been added to the US Constitution, well, that's just a fancy word for corrections, because we have evolved as a democratic society. We have said, we passed this, we said it was this way, but we have matured to a better understanding of it. So when you say, Mark, we want to return back to more so of an original design of the founding fathers. Well, I want to remind you, brother, that wasn't a good idea for people like myself, okay? The fact that we have amendments created protections and rights for individuals like me, and then the federal government, as it relates to the opposition of states' rights, created added protection for individuals like me. So I think you get it when a person like myself would say, listen, I'm cool with the methodology being present in Article 5, but I'm also hesitant based on the history of what states have done with increased enhanced authority and power.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a reasonable sensitivity, but thank God that we do have the power to amend the Constitution, because that's where so many of these protections come from. It's important to remember the original Bill of Rights came because states threatened to hold a state-based convention, an Article 5 convention. This is the reason that we got this. And I think you are correct that we have the ability to correct course as a society through the amendment process. One of the things that we know, though, is that the bigger it gets, the less responsive the federal government is to the American people. And when you look at the polling, 72% of the American people say that the federal government is too big and does too much. Now, I think you and I might disagree on a partisan basis or on an ideological basis, which parts are too big and do too much. And I think there's room for debate there. But the vast majority of the American people say the federal government's too big and too much in our business and in our everyday lives, and that we'd rather be governed closer to home.
Well, that you bring up an interesting point, because I've also seen similar studies that will suggest that when they talk about the federal government, they mean government in general. That government in general has too much room in the everyday life of citizens in the country, not just the federal government. And those same studies will highlight that people actually agree with what the federal government has done in many instances as it relates to education, social issues, etc. So yeah, you definitely will have some negative sentiment there, but you will also have a lot of positive, right? Let me ask you this, because this is specific to what's happening now.
Sure.
Right now, you have a battle between what's happening with voting rights. State governments are passing various laws. You literally had a record-breaking legislative session last cycle because of former President Donald Trump saying the election was stolen from him. Now, I believe that we should have uniformity in our elections. That's what I believe, and uniform protections. That's what those that fought in the 60s were actually fighting for. They wanted uniform protections. But these states, they want to enhance their power and turn down or turn away from the authority of the federal government to create this uniform policy. So what are your thoughts about that? Do you think that the state should independently run elections and not have accountability from the federal government whatsoever?
Yeah, I mean, let's first go to the Constitution. I think the Constitution largely gives the authority to the states on how to run their elections. But I want to be really clear, and I'm afraid a lot of conservatives don't get this right. There is a clause in the Constitution and in the elections clause that really actually gives the federal government authority to essentially do what they're doing, what they've tried to do with HR 1, I think what they're doing to some extent with HR 4, that authority exists in the Constitution. So it's there, we got to deal with it. If somebody didn't like it, they would need to change it. Those are the two pieces of our election law, though, that come directly from the Constitution.
Brother, I'm so glad you said that, because that was going to be my next point. The US Constitution, Article 1, Section 4, Clause 1, it empowers both Congress and state legislatures to regulate the times, places, and manner of holding elections. And it gives deference to the powers of Congress if there's a conflict of those exacting powers. That is in Article 1, Section 4, Clause 1 of the Constitution. So I'm glad you said that, man. It shows me that you have significant intellectual integrity about what you believe. Because you're right, I have had countless Republicans, even on my show. Obviously, you've heard them pontificate on television that somehow the federal government does not have the constitutional basis in order to regulate elections. However, it is right there in the Constitution. And if you're going to be a purist in your intellectual thinking or your linear logic, you must adhere to the fact that the Constitution does, in fact, empower the US Congress to oversee and to change matters of rules as it relates to the election. You don't have to like it, but you cannot proclaim that that is unconstitutional.
I agree with you.
Yeah. What do you think would happen, man, if, let's say 34 states, they say, you know what, we're gonna hold a convention. And I'm not saying they agree. I'm saying Democrats and Republicans, brother. Let's act like we in La La Land for a minute, okay? Democrats and Republicans, they say, okay, we're gonna do the 34 thing. That's your prerequisite to have a convention. And then we'll discuss some things at the convention and see if maybe we find 38 governors or legislatures who may actually agree on a few things, right?
Correct.
What happens then, brother, to the implementation? And let me tell you why I bring this to the forefront. Because we have never done it before. And because we have never actually implemented any one of these Article 5 strategies before. If you actually get an Article 5 convention and a 38-member ratification, the federal government does not have a protocol to implement what the directive is, or at least not a known protocol that we've seen. What happens at that point?
Well, I think it would be different according to whatever specific amendments come out and get ratified. But if you look at the history, there is a protocol. Essentially, we have 27 amendments prior in American history ratified by the states and then enacted, put into the federal constitution, and the states have had to abide by those primarily through the extension of the 14th Amendment. And so we have a protocol for doing this. I want to get a little bit more specific, and maybe I can get more at what you're asking specifically, which is, for example, one of the things that's being proposed is a balanced budget amendment. And there's about an 85% approval rating for this in the American public. It goes across party lines. So we all know we got to balance our own checkbook at some point. And so what that looks like exactly, I think we can debate that. But let's say that comes out. Well, if you said balance your budget tomorrow, not only would the federal government crash and burn, but the entire world economy would crash and burn. So what I imagine is that the folks who are preparing this amendment would create a protocol whereby certain programs are grandfathered. There's a certain amount of time before it kicks in order that the federal government can adjust. And frankly, the world's economy could adjust to a balanced budget amendment.
You know, I like the idea, brother, of the federal government having significant power over some of the state governments that would be adversarial to me and communities that I advocate for. And until that is remedied, this conversation will always be at least somewhat problematic with me because of that connection. What are you all doing with the Convention of States, I guess, to mitigate that nuance that many people of color have in this country?
Yeah, and I think this is really important. I'm glad you asked that question, Doctor, because what we're doing is there are specific requirements around this convention of the things that can be discussed. And there are things that the American people are broadly in favor of. We poll this broadly. It's about 66% of Americans are in favor of this, roughly 75% Democrats, about 66% of independents, 75% Republicans, 66 of independents, and 52 Democrats. And really what we're talking about is term limits. Almost everybody favors those. A balanced budget amendment, almost everybody favors those. And limitations on the scope, the power, and the jurisdiction of the federal government. And so I believe that provides the protections that you're looking for. That's my opinion on the matter. Of course, that's my opinion, to be fair.
Come on, brother. You know good and damn well, if you increase some of the power in these southern states in particular, they are going to run mad with it. Come on, man, you know that.
Look, I will disagree with you. I've been in 48 states. I don't know how much time you spend on the road, but I've been in 48 states in the last 2 years. What I love about this country when I travel is what I see, that I see the brotherhood and sisterhood of man all over this country. I'm a Christian, that I see Christians living together and working together and praying together all over this country. I'm in these legislatures. I see people of color, I see white folks, I see gay, lesbian folks in these legislatures getting along. It's difficult because it's partisan and they have their fights, but I don't agree with you. I'm not worried about the southern states, and frankly, I think the southern states are better off than the northern states. If you look at migration patterns for folks of color, they're moving from the north to the south. If it was so bad in the south, those migration patterns would not be evident. They would not be factual, and they are.
Brother, I wish I had much more time, but here's what I want to do, because I would love for you and I to debate that element of enhanced state power. Some would call it states' rights. If you want to stay away from that terminology, that's on you. I believe it is a de facto design to get you closer to states' rights. But let me ask you a question.
No, well, I'm gonna jump in here. That's not true. That's not the intent. Nobody in our organization has ever said that. I've never heard anybody say that in a legislature. So I'm not gonna allow you, doctor, to just put that on me. We've been having a really good.
No, brother, that's my opinion, brother.
Yeah, but you're putting it on me. You're saying
no. What I'm doing is putting it out there for the record. That is my opinion.
You can say that's your opinion, but you said that's the de facto plan, and that's just false.
That's what I believe. I believe that's the design.
Yeah, well, that's your belief. You actually have no factual basis for that belief. If you could present me with some facts that demonstrate that,
yeah, I'd be happy. Mark, I could present you with some facts, brother. Yeah, let's go to the state of Georgia. State of Georgia, Senate Bill 202, passed the General Assembly, passed the Senate, only had Republican support. It made it a misdemeanor offense for anyone to give food or water to somebody waiting in a line at a voting precinct. 98% of lines, those that have been actually surveyed, are in black precincts in the state of Georgia. The reason why they passed that law, which even Lindsey Graham went on Fox News and said that was a silly ass law to him. The reason why they passed that law is because there was no requirement of pre-clearance from the DOJ. Why was there no requirement for pre-clearance? Because the US Supreme Court set aside the Voting Rights Act and said this is now a legislative issue. And so the state government got an enhanced power. And what did they do with that enhanced power? They decided to make a criminal offense when there is no criminal at all. That only adversely affected 98% of precincts that were African American populated in the state of Georgia. You don't find that to be problematic, brother? That to me takes us closer to the design of what's called states' rights, where they will engage in discriminatory practices in order to meet their political agenda without accountability to any other governmental agency, because before the Supreme Court set it aside, the DOJ would have had to approve that legislation.
Yeah, and I would call that crazy over criminalization. And I would say it has nothing to do with convention of states. And you're making a straw man argument about an election law in Georgia. What you did that in response to me saying that you have no evidence that what we're doing is a de facto way to create essentially what you're saying are racist laws. That it's just not true. It's a straw man argument. It has nothing to do with what we're doing.
Mark,
you're completely off tangent. And by the way, to be fair, we have an email exchange where I told you I'm not a states' rights guy. That's not the debate that we're having today. I figured you'd try to work it in. I'm not interested in having that debate with you, doctor.
Mark, let me be very clear with you, brother. I don't give a damn that that's not what you believe. I'm telling you what I believe. Now you can disagree with me. That's an open conversation. That makes it transparent. I'm telling you that if we enhance the rights of these states, the authorities of these states, I believe that they would take advantage of it and try to utilize it in a discriminatory fashion because of the historical evidence of their previous social ills. That's what I believe.
I'm very clear with what you're very clear, doctor. I understand what you believe.
Okay. All right, Mark, I do appreciate you coming on Indisputable. Thank you, brother.
Thanks for having me.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, don't forget, make sure you take care of yourself, take care of each other, and take care of the planet. Remember, the truth is always indisputable.